All right, let's get it. Drive time, Wednesday afternoon. 13 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. How do you like 73 degrees and sunny here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah? It is a beautiful, beautiful spring-like day outside, and as it is every single day, it's good to have you along for the ride. Spence Checketts behind the mic, Porter Larson behind the glass today as we get you halfway through that work week and one day closer to the weekend. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy spring to you. Do not look at the forecast next week. Don't do it. You don't need to. Enjoy it for today. Enjoy it for tomorrow before things get a little chilly again because, it's still kind of springtime in Utah, which brings a number of different weather patterns. So happy Wednesday. Thanks for being here. Busy show today. A lot going on. Not a lot locally tonight. The Utah Jazz got curb stomped last night at the Delta Center by the Memphis Grizzlies. Of course, it is the stretch run in the NBA, but not a lot of exciting NBA basketball because a third of the league is tanking. I don't know if you've noticed. Topically, a lot of people talking about this, but we'll do some NBA and some Jazz on the show. We're less than a month away from the NFL draft. 25 Utes and Cougars were at the Big 12 Pro Day last week in Frisco. And there's some NFL news right off the top of the show today. Stephon Diggs is a Patriot. Stephon Diggs makes his way to the New England Patriots via a 3-year, $69 million deal. He tore his ACL last year in Houston. Best years in Buffalo. Now he goes back to that division to play for the New England Patriots. So a little NFL breaking news right off the top. Do a little NFL, of course, on the show. Some off-season college football, too. Spring ball rolling along. Up on the Hill, a lot of conversation about Nate Johnson, a lot of conversation about Devin Dampier. Spring football should only be good vibes, right? Because we are still a number of months away from actually playing games that matter. What you don't want are a bunch of question marks. And I will say from the Utah football perspective, the good news is we don't have as many right now as we have over the past couple of years. So, of course, Utah spring football. We'll get to some of that on the show today. If you're looking for spring football sound, players and coaches, ESPN700sports.com is where you go. Utah announced the hire of Sacramento Kings assistant general manager Wes Wilcox, the highest-ranking NBA front office official to take a college job. So good things happening up on the Hill. We'll read you what Alex Jensen had to say about Wes, Mark Harlan as well, as the statement was released, just a few hours ago. And speaking of Alex Jensen, we now have the details of his contract via Josh Furlong through KSL. We'll dig into that, let you know what they're going to pay Alex and the commitment they've made to him. Now 2 hires officially. Coach Chill on the way, and now Wes Wilcox on the way as the Utah basketball staff for the future is taking shape. The awkward part of that topic is the Utah basketball program is still practicing. Josh Eilert is still getting his team ready for the college basketball crown next week in Las Vegas. There's a chance that we're going to be there for the show. Not sure just yet. We're working on a few things because one of my broadcasting goals has been to broadcast live from Vegas during the college basketball crown. So I'm just hoping to check that box. One day away from the Madness of March, it resumes tomorrow. BYU in the Sweet 16 for the first time since James Taft Fredette was making a rain down in Provo. We'll take on Alabama at 5:09 Mountain Time on CBS. Maryland, Florida following that. Then it's Arizona, Duke, Arkansas, and Texas Tech. Man, tomorrow night's going to be so fun. So a lot to do on the program. Real Salt Lake back in action coming up this weekend. They're going to welcome in Minnesota, I believe. Yeah. Minnesota in town to take on RSL. 6:30 Mountain Time. Going to have Apple TV, the MLS League Pass for that game. So Real Salt Lake back in action. The Royals back in action on Saturday as well. The hockey club will get back at it tomorrow against Tampa Bay. I hate to break it to you. It's not happening this year, but that's all right. It's been a lot of fun to have hockey back in our market. So a little bit of everything on a Wednesday afternoon. Hopefully you're enjoying this weather. If you're outside playing a little golf, outside doing a little hiking, riding the bike, walking the dog, maybe you're listening to us on our ESPN 700 app. It's free in the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, depending on your device of choice. It's a great way to take us on the go. It's how I listen to our radio station. Or if you're driving around town, making your commute home, or maybe you're one of our friends driving an Uber or a delivery truck, however you're listening to us, we always appreciate it because we know you have a lot of options. but we also know we're the best option in the market. So thank you for that. Our first guest on a Wednesday, Pablo Mastroianni, the head coach of RSL. I was at the match on last Saturday. RSL went down to man early, conceded a goal right before half, and lost to Dallas 1-0. Are they signing players? I don't know. Kind of over it at this point, but we'll see what Pablo has to say about it. NBA Daily Assist comes your way via Zach Harper today, and then Neil Smith stops by for his weekly hit to talk about the world of pro hockey and the Utah Hockey Club. And then in the 4 o'clock hour today, Chris Kamrani, who I'm sure is in a good mood, getting a little vitamin D via the sunshine, will be live in studio to talk about a number of different things. So a lot to do on the program. Pablo Mastroianni, Zach Harper, Neil Smith, Chris Kamrani, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners, and that guy, Porter Larson, on a Wednesday afternoon. Hello, Porter. Happy Wednesday. How are you?
I'm doing well, Spencer. How are you?
It's a very formal introduction on this Wednesday afternoon.
Halfway through the work week, we're happy to be there. I don't know how formal I can get, but Spencer, that's about as formal as I go.
Well, that's the name my mama gave me. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people ask me, like, what do you prefer, Spencer? And I don't really have a preference. Like, the radio thing just became, you know whose fault it is? It's Bill's fault. It's the voice of the youth.
He called you Spencer?
Well, he just decided our show was going to be Bill and Spence. It should have been Spence and Bill, but whatever. I don't have an ego, Porter. That's not who I am. If Bill wants to have Bill first, whatever. Well, I was a good teammate. I'm like, fine. He just thought Bill and Spence sounded better.
What's your middle name?
David.
You seem like a guy that might go by three names if you give you the choice.
What is that supposed to mean?
I don't know. You're affluent.
Spencer David Checketts.
The Spencer David Checketts Hour.
You're continuing your abuse that you started at the end of the show last night.
Calling you affluent and well-connected and of the people is, I don't know.
I am a man of the people, but you intimated that there was a show that you and Kamrani liked, and you said, oh, you probably wouldn't be into it.
It's just a little grimy.
What is that supposed to mean? I can be grimy. I went to yoga today and didn't shower. I'm currently grimy. I'm the very definition of.
This is true. I'm the one in the nice sweater.
You are.
And you're the one showing up grimy, I guess.
Hoity-toity in the producer's room while I'm in here doing 4 hours of radio like I'm in the coal mines. Jeez.
You may have a point.
All right. Pablo, first guest, right out of the gates on a Wednesday. Before we get to Pop's courtesy of our good friends at Prize Picks, it is time now for your opening tip.
The opening tip of the drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
All right, couple of pieces of news on the basketball side of things that became official. Well, the Alex Jensen contract became official 10 days ago, but we do have the details of Alex's deal. This is kind of a weird thing. I'm not super comfortable with it. I don't know why we do it, but in very few walks of life, like if you're in insurance sales, right? You don't have to deal with a radio host being like, hey, I heard Pete's deal. Pete from Northwestern Mutual is going to make $70,000 as a base insurance salesman, and his commission structure is 17%. Like, we don't do it in any other walk of life, but for some reason we do it in sports. I don't know why.
I do like Spence. If you've noticed, there's like you have noticed because it's part of the Instagram sphere that we talk about. There is like a sales kind of a types of sales guys who are like putting their stats out there, which is kind of the lane you're going to. But you're right. There's no one like covering it, talking about how you're performing at your job. But I am enjoying seeing my friends that I went to high school post their sales stats.
Yeah, and they're all lying. I mean, they're just trying to convince you to buy their online e-course for $39.99 a month. And then if you do, you can make what they claim to make selling fraudulent securities. Then they end up in jail for 10 years, and then you're an idiot for buying. Do not buy their courses. Okay. No, this is not just you. I'm speaking to the masses. Do not buy these charlatans' courses. Okay, people that know how to make money don't need to sell their courses to you. Okay, anyway, rant over. It's just weird that we do this, but, here it is. Like, hey, Bob got a new job selling medical device. It's an $80,000 base, and he's got a salary structure with bonuses where he might make up to $97,000 this year. But anyway, Alex Jensen is the head coach of the Utah men's basketball team, and therefore we talk about his contract. 6-year contract with the Utes that starts at $3.6 million per season. His salary, including base, appearance fees, and incentives, totals $21.6 million. 8th highest coach in the Big 12, and, of course, still finishing off the season with the Dallas Mavericks. And so we'll go over some of the details of this throughout the course of the show. But the other piece of news that became official today, and we talked about this via the good reporting of Pete Thamel from ESPN, is that Wes Wilcox is on his way to be the general manager of the Utah basketball program. So this is new. This is newsworthy and noteworthy for several different reasons. Number one, Wes Wilcox, 39 years old, very highly respected NBA executive who once upon a time was an actual general manager in the National Basketball Association for Atlanta. Over the course of 22 years in the NBA, Wes has done a little bit of everything. I mean, it's an interesting path that he has taken that has landed him now at the University of Utah, and he instantly becomes the highest-ranking sitting NBA front office member to take a college front office job. And if you look at the deal that Alex signed, $3.6 million, right out of the gates, I believe my guess is, and maybe we'll find this out with some of the great reporting from either Josh Furlong, who was able to get the stuff on Alex, or maybe our friends at the Salt Lake Tribune. I wouldn't be stunned if Wes Wilcox is being paid 7 figures to be the general manager of the Utah basketball program. And, of course, a lot of the attention with the local ecosystem of basketball has been on Brigham Young because they're still playing. They're in the Sweet 16. And their head coach, Kevin Young, coming from the NBA in year one, has done such a remarkable job to modernize BYU hoops on and off the court. They run a pro-style offense. They run a pro-style, schematic, conceptual attack on both sides of the floor, but it's also off the court. And that these days is as important as on-the-court stuff. So the finances and the ecosystem of the economics of Utah basketball appear to be in really, really good shape, which as a Ute fan, you should be very excited about. So those are the two pieces of news on the Utah basketball side of things. We now know the deal with Alex Jensen's contract. I'll tell you what I love about Alex's deal. 6 years, $1.3 million increase from what Craig was making his last season here. So each year, Alex is going to make $300,000 in base salary, $2.5 million in appearance fees, which was interesting. That's public speaking engagements and fundraising. And then $400,000 in an outfitter agreement. Can I just stop and say, please, can we move away from Under Armour? That's just me. We're the home of the Utes. Do what you got to do. But $400,000 in an outfitter agreement, $400,000 in a multimedia rights agreement. Does that mean that he's going to have consistent hits on the afternoon drive show, the number one rated afternoon drive show in the market on ESPN 700?
Coach's show at the least, but we'll at least maybe throw that in there.
All
See
right.
if we can sneak it in there.
There we go. He has an opportunity, Alex does, to make an additional $750,000 in incentive-based compensation, which includes opportunities like a top 4 finish in the Big 12, winning the conference, making the NCAA tournament, and then several other items as well. So there you go. We've got the details on Alex's deal. We also have the news that Wes Wilcox is on his way to become the general manager of the Utah men's basketball program. So good stuff. And obviously, only time will tell. For now, as I've talked about, it does feel that Utah has won the day, has won the press conference, has inspired some energy surrounding the basketball program in this community that I haven't felt in a long, long time. And now the work begins. And we still are awaiting word as far as the rest of the staff. Alex himself has been on record saying he's going to take his time. What does that mean about Andre Miller? What does that mean about the future of the program? Only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see. But if anything comes down while we're on air, of course, we'll bring it to you. We'll catch a quick break and bring in Pablo Mastroeni coming up on the other side. But before we do that, my good friends at Prize Picks want to let you know that springtime is here and baseball season is officially underway. Opening day is tomorrow, I believe. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the Diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Ultimately, they are giving you free money, bottom line. So go take the free money. That's the way to do it. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700, and you get $50. As soon as you make that first $5 bet, you do not even have to win the bet to get the $50. It is on the house. So download that Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700. You get $50 instantly when you make that first $5 bet with our good friends at Prize Picks. Run your game all season long. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up on the other side, the head coach of RSL, Pablo Mastroeni, bats leadoff on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. All right, we got Zach Harper joining us coming up in a bit. We'll do a little NBA with Zach. Neil Smith stops by as well for his weekly visit to do a little hockey. And then Chris Camerani live in studio for a little bit of everything. We're going to jump all over the place today, but we'll start off with a little soccer. The head coach of RSL, Pablo Mastroeni, on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Pablo, happy spring-like Wednesday, sir. How are you?
Amazing, Spence. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. The sunshine's got to hit you pretty well during training, I'd imagine, yeah?
It was the most beautiful day we've had all year, man. The guys were buzzing, just without a sweat top, and sun is shining, the ball was rolling. It was a beautiful day.
Good to hear it. All right, let's start out with I was there last Saturday, and let's start out with a call because I was actually in the stands in the stadium because I'm a man of the people, Pablo, as you know that. And I had a front row view. Now you're gonna have to help me because, as I say all the time, I'm a bit of a soccer neophyte. It felt like I think it was Ojeda got pulled from behind. Okay, so to me that stopped play. That's number one.
Correct.
And number two, I didn't view that tackle egregious enough to be handed a straight red. Okay, so that's my prism. You tell me your take.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, and that was my argument with the fourth official. Is if the whistle would have blown when the foul occurred, the rest of that play would have stopped because they try to play an advantage where there was no advantage because he was running into two or three guys. I think that carried the play on, and so then the other situation is when that player that ended up getting hurt, he was coming full steam at Ari. And here's the thing, and it's crazy because we're talking about angles of the feet. If the angle of your foot is literally at a 45-degree angle facing down, it's a very dangerous situation for the player that's running through the ball or kicking the ball. And you can break legs doing that. So it's like it's the most forceful angle. So if you're showing studs at 45, and oftentimes what happens is you might get the ball, but then the foot is underneath it. And so I think the biggest problem, Spence, in this in real time, it was a normal tackle. But when you slow it down, and now you have this VAR that like literally stop, every millisecond it looks bad, right? And it is a bit dangerous. But I think before VAR, that is a yellow card, and the play carries on. Nowadays with VAR, they're looking at every centimeter of the angle of the foot and how. Is this foot in a dangerous position with the guy swinging through? And so it is what it is, and I think it's a great learning lesson for Ari.
Are you pro or anti VAR or VAR as you call it?
Yeah, it's interesting because you would think that, like in this case, with VAR you could see that and you'd say, okay, that I could see how that's a dangerous tackle, and you can. But there's so many times where you look at VAR and you're assuming it's going to go one way because it's clear and it's slowed down and they don't change the call. And so it's like, I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, I guess it just depends on what side, the fence you're on when the call is made. If it's your advantage, then it's a great decision to have VAR, but I don't think it's in any way cleared things up.
For our listeners that are saying, what the hell are they talking about? VAR is video assistant referee, and essentially it's the same thing that other sports simply just call instant replay. That's an accurate description, Pablo, yes?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. The one difference is that the VAR is like located in Dallas, Texas. And so these people are remote, and so they're viewing the game from like a satellite office in Dallas, and they're watching our game. So the replay isn't in our stadium. So I think that's different than football or any of these other things where it's like there's actually referees that are charged with that position in real time in a different location.
Tell me your takeaway from how your team responded to that call, just overall after the red. Because look, it's such a punitive thing, man. It really is. I've always I can remember the first time I didn't know that a red card meant the guy's ejected, then you can't sub for him. And I remember when the club first came here and I had my first red card experience, I'm like, wait, that can't be right. That's not fair.
Right.
It's so punitive. It really is. It changes the whole game. So what did you make of the way your team responded?
Yeah. Before I get to that, I think I'd like to petition FIFA with a new rule change on in that regard, and that's if you get a red card, that player is that you're playing down a man for the rest of that half, right? Because again, it's a monumentous task to cover a field that's 120 yards by 75 yards wide, being down a man. It is just it's an incredible feat, right? And so I just feel like if they go, okay, second half, you can bring in another guy, so it's an 11-11 game. So, but it's still a penalty, right? So if you get it in the 18th minute, like we got it, we're still down a man for the next 15 minutes or 25 minutes, and whatever we have to hold on. But I think it'd be more strategical. I think it'd be more conducive with the times. But the response from our group, I thought, was fantastic. I think we were unfortunate to concede that goal where, again, we were numbers up in the box, so the numbers down didn't even affect the goal that we conceded, which is disappointing. But in the second half, we changed things up and said we got to go for it. And we played on the knife's edge at times, man for man in the back, but to be able to get pressure on the ball, to win some turnovers. And I just thought the spirit of the group was the right thing. I think we created a couple, we created chaos, which then blurred. There was times where I thought we were up a man, and that was the type of energy and commitment that we needed to get back in that game. But unfortunately, we just didn't have the last pop in front of goal to equalize. But just really proud of the way the guys conducted themselves and the way they approached the game and down a man and down a goal, which for me is the hardest situation to combat. But they did a great job. And then after the game was really talking about, like, that's the spirit. Now think about it. If you have another man down or another man on your side and you're playing even numbers or playing at home, that's the spirit that we need to have. That's the kind of mentality we need to have to make this place a fortress.
So from what I saw, Ari Piol ran off the pitch, and typically when a player is red carded, they're upset. He looked like inconsolable. I mean, his head was in his hands. It looked like he was crying. What'd you say to him when you were able to get a hold of him, and how's he doing after that tough call?
Yeah, I think it's really tough, especially for a young player to process. He's come all the way over on his own from Australia. Integrated into a new team, has maybe, 18 professional matches under his belt. And then this situation happens, and it's at home in front of our crowd, in front of our teammates. And I think the moment was huge for him. And so, again, I just said, we got you. Again, this is a team thing. This is not about you. And now we just got to and to be fair, Ari, as a young player, stood up in front of the group when we got back to training and apologized for it. He says he's going to learn from it, but he's grateful for the spirit that we had in playing that game out the way we did. And so, and it's one of those feel-good moments, when you have we have a young group, and there's going to be moments like this that we have to learn from as a collective. And for him to stand up in front of the group, it's not easy, but to own it, be responsible for it, and acknowledge that he's going to do better in the future, I think is a powerful statement.
When they and I could not see a replay, so I'll actually ask you too about the penalty that was awarded to Dallas, and then great save. I mean, that was a big time moment from Cabral. So what did you see there? And I thought after Rafa was able to get his paws on it, that would serve as an impetus to motivate you guys, and maybe it did a little bit. But what'd you make of kind of that sequence of events, Pops?
Yeah, again, I think they were throwing numbers forward. They smelled blood. We were down a man, and so they were overloading our right side in that particular play. And Acosta is one of the best 10s in the league, one of the trickiest midfielders. He's a handful to deal with, and I think he had a play where I think Vera caught ball watching a little bit, and then ended up grabbing at what looked like his jersey and dragging him down. So there's not much we can say there, but I think. Again, speaking about Rafa, I just wish that everyone had an inside view of what he's been able to do to our locker room and how he leads, and his experience is just felt all over this place. And so for me, the greatest value that Rafa brings is behind closed doors. But now when you see him performing at the level that he's at the field, we've got a real gem of a human being. We got a gem of a leader. And we got a player that's playing at the top of his game and keeping us in games. And so, that's why it was disappointing for me to concede the goal we did, because when your goalkeeper's standing on his head, as he's been in the first, five games, actually probably 7 games now, it just feels bad to concede those type of goals and not do the right things in front of them. So, but it's been a real joy. And again, I think it just put us in a position to go in the second half and say, it's really clear what we need to do. Let's go out and attack this game the right way.
Weird question, but it just came to my mind because when you think leaders in soccer, and yes, my prism is pretty limited, but I'm thinking of Kyle, right? I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of holding mids. I'm thinking of midfielders with bite. I'm thinking of Emeka Anelli. And look, Dami wore the armband. It doesn't have to be a midfielder, but and we had one of the best MLS keepers of all time in Nick Raimondo. But are keepers typically known as leaders in the ecosystem of soccer? And what does it mean when you have a great leader in goal?
Yeah, no, I think the one thing that the one thing with the goalkeeper in that position from a leadership perspective is he sees the whole field, he sees the whole game, right? And so his ability to communicate that to now Jay Glad, who then communicates it to Emeka and relays that to the forwards, I think is really, really important. So I would say most of your leaders are going to be found down the spine of the team. So your forward, your midfielders, and your center backs, along with your goalkeeper. And there's been a number of goalkeepers over the history of the game that have actually worn the armband. One of the reasons why it's difficult, there's a new mandate in the league that the captain is going to be the only player that speaks to the referee. And so if there's a foul in the attacking half, it'd be silly to have Rafa run all the way from his goal to be the only one that can communicate with the referee. So it's a new mandate. So ideally, it's someone in the middle, and for us, it's Emeka who's usually going to be around the ball and usually going to be around the referee. But it's not uncommon for goalkeepers to be leaders. And Nick Raimondo, who's still here at the club, was a fantastic leader, and he did it in his own way. But when they speak, everyone listens because they have perspective that no one else has.
All right, let's talk about some of the lineup decisions because you were without, obviously, Dom was with Poland, and, of course, Diego was with the U.S. men's national team. And, we discussed with the possibility of what you do with Ruiz, because you're so stacked in central mid, and he does have attacking prowess. And you went with Forster and Piol in the starting lineup, and Ruiz technically was one of your attacking pieces as well. So take us through the mindset, the process that you went through when landing on this lineup slide.
Yeah, again, I think that when you don't, most of the goals that we've had this year have come either through Dom or Diego, and through Diego as well. But missing 2 very important pieces that create goals in the run of play. The thought was Pablo needs to be on the field. He's goal dangerous. He can find any kind of pass on the field, but also set piece delivery. For me, Pablo Ruiz is one of the best deliverers of set pieces in the league. And again, in 18 minutes, when we were playing even numbers, it didn't really manifest, and it usually takes a little bit more time to kind of get in the flow of the game. So that part was null and void because we didn't have too many set pieces to accentuate that. The other part was with Ari and Forster, 2 forwards on the field, was who's going to be the guy that can find him slip passes and find him on the back post and deliver good crosses from wide areas, and that was also Pablo. But again, I think the game plan went out the window in 18 minutes because we were down a man and we had to quickly reshuffle and get our bearings about us. But that was the thought behind it. And then along with that, having guys like Phil, Justin Glad and Vera joining, Forster and Ari on set pieces, we felt like that was a way to make up for the lack of production that Dominic and Diego would have brought to the group.
Take us through and your point is well taken about the game plan going out the window when you go down a man, and that makes it difficult. But take us through the substitutions when you went Tyler Wolff, you took Ruiz off, Katranis came on. It was good to see Lachlan. It's been a minute since we've seen Lachlan, and, obviously an attacking-minded sub there. And then the last one was interesting because, Kobe Henry is a center back. You take Forster off, and in the moment, I'm kind of like, all right, what's this all about? But it's pretty clear that Kobe's a pretty unique athlete, and you pushed him up top with the potential of getting his head on a ball, I assume. But take us through the substitution mentality.
Yeah. So again, at halftime, it was down a man, and again, the only way to really to maintain pressure when you're down a man is to make the game chaotic. In other words, to where it's not you're sitting behind the ball and you're just absorbing pressure because over time, not only does it affect your physical output, but it starts to affect your psyche, and you realize that we're defending our goal for large periods of time. So we wanted to be more direct and get crosses in the box, from second balls. And so we wanted to play forward, win second balls, get it out wide, and get numbers in the box. And so that was the idea with Wolfie coming in for Pablo, who's more of a player that likes to come to feet, which again makes sense when you have even numbers or you're up a man. But when you're down a man and you want to be more direct, it isn't tactically the best setup for us. And then obviously bringing in Lockie is like you said, a goal dangerous player that's going to shoot. And I think he had 3 shots in the second half, one of which was really close. And then Alex Petronis, I think we've been kind of rotating both him and Sam Junqua. Alex has been great, in the week of training, just coming in and just bringing more energy into the game. Sam was getting a bit tired, and that's a position that literally goes, you have to play left winger when we have the ball, and you have to play left back when we don't have the ball. And that's a big ask physically. And I thought Alex did a great job coming into the game. And the last one was obviously Kobe. And again, I think Forrester hadn't been playing a whole lot of minutes. And so about the 70th minute, just saw him just running on his kneecaps, and not having another forward in the stables. Just went with a guy like Kobe, who's not only a guy that can run and battle, but is, in training, he's prolific, getting his head on the ball in set pieces and or in the run of play. So that was kind of the setup. It wasn't ideal, but we pulled out every tool that we had to give us the best chance to win.
Before we get to the specifics with Minnesota, how whole are you? Who are you? Are you getting your guys back? How healthy are you as we head into the weekend?
Yeah, I think we're going to be all right. Diego's come back and has brought some great energy after a fantastic performance with the U.S. team. I thought and I told him this in front of the group, I thought he represented everyone in this room with the highest regard, and I think that's so important because, it's a way for the guys in the locker room to be validated as well, even if they're not with the national team. And so I couldn't be more proud of what Diego did in amongst the big players of the U.S. team with Pulisic and Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie and all the big players, and just showed some high-level grit, some high-level attacking stuff. Defensively, he was a beast. And so I just couldn't be happier for him. So, he's back. Dom joins us on Thursday. And so, obviously coming from Europe, he'll be a bit jet lagged. So we got to see where he's at. Obviously, we don't have Ari, but we are getting Emeka back in the fray. So that's a real positive. So we're going to be, I think we're going to be in a lot better way this weekend. We'll just have to see how Dom recovers from his trip.
Have you looked at the forecast for Minneapolis on Saturday?
I haven't. All right. Are you going to give me bad news or what?
Well, yes. Cold, rainy. Sorry, man. I figured you had looked. I mean, it's 75 today. I'm not trying to rain on your parade. But
I was going to say, I usually look on Thursday in order to pack my gear and get ready for the trip, but that's no fun. But it is what it is. We got to. Well, it's important as well. We look at on Thursday to make sure the guys carry their studs, and like you're saying, if it's raining, make sure that they have all the equipment that they need to be ready to go.
Fair enough. So the look, it's a 75% chance of rain. It's 42. It's not like it's going to snow 8 inches, and the cold up there can hit a little different. I remember we went to All-Star Weekend in Minneapolis. I think I was 15 or 16. I stepped off the plane. I was like, where are we? This is ridiculous. So, it is a little bit different. How do those adverse conditions affect the way you approach your game plan, if at all?
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. I think from a coaching perspective, the more variables you put into the guys' minds, the more they have to think about, right? And so you'll know in the warm-ups how the ball's moving. If it's raining, it's going to move really quick. And so those 20 minutes of warm-up get you in the right mindset of, like, what's the way to pass has to be if I'm going to play a through ball, because that's really where, long balls and through balls are going to be the ones where weather affects it. Because again, if you're going to play a long ball, it's got to actually hit the person's body. It can't be into space because it's just going to bounce and skip off the field. And the same with through balls. So it's like the weight of the pass, and I think they'll get a good feel of that in the warm up. So, don't put too much into it. Sometimes when we go to Houston and these climates, we talk about making sure that they have enough salts and their hydration is in a good way so that they're conscious of it, but not overdo it to where it becomes an excuse. And that's the last thing that we need. And so I'm super cognizant because in the past I've had coaches that sit there and harp on altitude, and before the game even starts, you can't even breathe because it's in your mind so long. So it's one thing to acknowledge it, but it's another thing to beat it like a dead horse, and where the guys are almost psychosomatic about the way that they should feel as opposed to the way they feel.
So tell me about Minnesota, unbeaten in their last 4, but the last 2 matches have been disappointing draws after allowing a set-piece goal 3 minutes after taking a lead. I know this because I have the power rankings pulled up in front of me, and that's the extent of my knowledge. So who are they? What are you up against?
Yeah, they're a real direct team. You'll see that if there's a foul anywhere near midfield, their goalkeeper will run out all the way out. They'll put a ton of numbers on the highest line, and they'll just launch it and play for second balls. And so they're a team that's very, very direct, and they do a good job of winning those second balls and then finding opportunities on goal there. So they're not a team that really like to possess the ball. And so for us, we want to, having played them so many times in the past 6 months, it's really about how do we get extra numbers in the attack to really be goal threatening? Because again, we had a lot of the ball, but we weren't threatening the goal. And so the guys have been working on a game plan, and it's looked really good this week. But then the flip side of that is, how is our shape behind the ball so that if we do lose it, we're prepared to deal with their strongest aspect of their game, which is attacking transition. So they have 2 guys up front who are just jets. They're strong and they're great finishers. And so it's the balance of both things. Is one, we want to be goal dangerous, but we also want to make sure that we contain their transition to keep them off the board. And again, I think if we compete the way we did against Dallas and tactically we're astute, I feel like we're in a good position to get a great result in Minnesota.
All right, Pablo, before I set you loose, I know it's not your job, but it is my job to ask somebody over there about all the rumors regarding reinforcements on the way. A 9, a winger, 2 players rumored to be, en route. You need help, man. You just do. I know you're making the most of it and doing the best you can with the lineup that you have, but any insight for fans curious about when we could see these players get across the line?
Yeah, so, I talked to Kurt today, and he said that it's not over the line yet, but again, optimistic that we're going to get it done. We got a couple weeks left. I think it's the 23rd where the window closes, so we have to have it locked and loaded before then. So it's going to be tight. Again, I think everyone's doing everything they can, but I agree with you. Like we need, and not only do we need just a player to come in and help the attack, but we need the inspiration of a player coming in to help the attack. In other words, something to hold on to for our group as well. So I think everyone's working hard to make it happen. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm optimistic in the next 4 or 5 days that I hope we can get at least one of these guys over the line to make sure we bolster our group. Given that it's been a little bit light on the attacking end, and we want to make sure that we're in a position to be able to compete now for the future. In other words, these games are really, really important, and they don't show up in September. These points are critical now, so that in September there's going to be moments where we're not going to be at our best, but we're still in a great position to make the playoffs and, more importantly, go beyond the first round.
I lied. I actually have one more question because I was watching you on the sidelines because I was over there on the west side of the stadium, and it looked like you and I honestly have no idea if this is a thing. It looked like, do you have an assistant coach that just yells louder than you do? Like, do you ask one of your assistants to yell because you can't yell as loud as he does? I know that sounds weird, but there were several moments where you wanted to yell at a player and you asked one of your assistants to, it looked like you were asking an assistant coach to stand up and yell for you. Am I going crazy?
No, I think especially when there's so much chaos, like a red card and then a penalty kick.
Yes.
I think everyone's just emotional. I think everyone's just trying to get information across. We have an attacking coach, we have a defending coach, and so I think everyone is just all hands on deck at that moment. Spence, I've never had anyone yell for me. My voice is quite loud, but if you saw that, it's because there was a lot of information that had to get across in moments of high emotional times. So I it's funny, but I think one of the coaches got a yellow card as well for having a loud voice as well. So it was an emotional game, and I think those circumstances require that we're calm, but we're also making sure that the guys get the information to best help them endure these tough moments.
Okay, I'm glad I asked you because I was highly confused. I'm like, it looks like Pablo is asking an assistant to yell for him. But anyway, thanks for the time, man. Travel safe up to Minnesota, and we'll chat soon, okay?
Appreciate it, bud. Thank you.
All right, Pablo Mastroeni, Real Salt Lake back in action at the Allianz Field up in Minnesota. I misspoke earlier. I said they were at home. They are not. They will be back at home on April the 5th against the Galaxy. So RSL badly in need of points and honestly badly in need of a talent infusion. If I could be blunt and honest, they have been failed by their ownership and their front office. Sign some players, man. This is getting pathetic. Rant over. Brought to you today, not the rant, Pablo, by IFA Country Stores. IFA Country Stores, they have everything you need to make your lawn in tip-top shape. It is warm outside. Time to think about your lawn. IFA's 4+ Lawn Care program can promote healthy green grass this summer. Visit with their team of pro turf and landscape consultants that help provide products and services to local baseball and soccer fields, golf courses, parks, and other city properties throughout Utah. It's the same knowledge and care that they share with you about your yard. Check them out. IFA online at ifa.coop. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go on this lovely Wednesday afternoon. We'll switch gears from soccer to basketball. Coming up next with Zach Harper. We got a little hockey with Neil Smith. And a bit of everything, including spring football, with Christopher Kamrani from The Athletic on a busy Wednesday show. So keep it right here on ESPN 700, 92 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. You know what that means? I mean, it means good stuff after we get out of the bump. It's the worst bit we have on the show, but I guess it's part of the DNA of the show at this point. Our guy, Zach Harper, NBA Daily Assist Time on a Wednesday afternoon. Zach, happy Wednesday, sir. How are you?
I'm excellent. I heard the Pitbull music. How could you not be great?
No, I just pictured. So, like, are we talking? Is the head bobbing? Is it a full body dance when you hear the bump?
Oh, it's a full body. You got to get up. I was sitting down. I got up. I started, doing a little move here, a little two-step. You have to.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it makes you happy, Zach. That's all that matters. That's what we're trying to do. How's your Wednesday, man? What's going on in your world?
It's gloomy here. It's a little gloomy here. It's a little chilly, but everything else is great. It was hot earlier this week, so, just trying to go with the ups and downs of the weather here. But I hear it's nice in Salt Lake City, so I'm happy for you guys.
I was going to say, this might be the only day all year long I can actually tell you that it is 75 and it is sunny, so in your face, Zach.
Yeah, it was 90 here on Monday.
Woof.
90.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. You fill out a bracket? Are you fill out a bracket for this NCAA tournament? Okay.
Yeah.
And
great question. Who did I have? I think I had Houston over, let's say Michigan State. I think I had Houston over Michigan State in the final.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't say I put a lot of thought into it.
Did you have to for the athletic?
No. This was just for a friend group thing. But yeah, like I follow college basketball mostly through maybe the top 10 prospects throughout the season. And then I'll try to dive into the conference tournament if I'm not too busy. And then once it's March Madness, like once it's the tournament, I dive in as much as I can. Like I was watching all day Thursday, all day Friday. I watched most of Saturday and most of Sunday. I'll be locked in the rest of the way and start scouting for all the draft prospects that are there, making pretty snap decisions. Like I made my entire decision on Reed Shepherd based on his horrible game against Oakland last year, and I still feel pretty confident about that. So I don't put a whole lot of thought into March Madness. I just now enjoy it. I used to put a lot of thought into it.
Well, when you're young and dumb, you think you have a chance to actually predict the outcome. And then after a few years, you just tell me if you get what I get this time of year, which is the texts and the emails from the aunts and the cousins like, hey, I've got to fill out a bracket. Will you do it for me?
Absolutely. Even before, like when I first started getting into this in terms of like trying to become a basketball writer, I was working for an appellate court in Sacramento. And so I started a website and everything, and I was let into the judges' bracket pool with like some of the appellate attorneys and some of the justices because they knew I was a basketball guy. So I would get like asked. They would ask me all the time, like, "So who do you like here, and what do you think here?" As I was like in this pool, and then since then, it's just I get it constantly.
You know what? I don't know that I've ever asked you this because I think I became familiar with your work via Twitter like years ago. By years ago, I mean maybe 15, 16 years ago. That's how I became familiar with you. And then I started reading your stuff and listening to your work. How did you break into this business? It's not easy to do.
It's not easy to do. And I think a lot of it, I mean, it was, hard work and I didn't give up, but it was also like just really good timing. I was working for an appellate court. Like I said, I started a website in June of 2007. Was, kind of just got into Twitter a little bit in 2008, 2009, started getting a little bit of notice through that. Got a little bit of notice through J.E. Skeets of the Basketball Jones at the time, now of No Dunks, and he was running like the Yahoo blog at the time, and so I got some notice from that. And then ESPN started the True Hoop Network, and they needed a Kings blogger, and the great Tom Ziller said no, and so then they came to me because I was the second choice, and I started a website called Cowbell Kingdom for ESPN, and it didn't pay anything, but it got you credentialed, and you were affiliated with ESPN. And they started a nightly chat called the Daily Dime Live, and they would invite the bloggers of the teams that night who were playing to come chat on ESPN.com. And I just started showing up even when the Kings weren't playing. And I realized quickly, the editors of ESPN.com don't want to run this chat. And so I just kept showing up. I started running the chat kind of by default. And then I did it through the playoffs of the 2009, 2010 season, and then they offered me a job to run the chat full time, and that was my foot in the door.
Wait, are you telling me you didn't manifest this?
Well, obviously I had like manifestation boards and vision boards and yeah, crystals. Yeah.
Did you start your blog when it was the summer solstice?
Of course.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, which everyone obviously knows is, June whatever.
Dude, your Mercury in retrograde outro, as the kids would say, it sent me last week. That was perfect timing. It was well done.
Do kids say it sent you? Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah, that's what I say too because I'm young.
No, I know. You and I both.
Yeah.
While we're in the space of collegiate prospects, and we are in Salt Lake City, where the Jazz are an unserious basketball team, tell our listeners what you believe Cooper Flagg will be in the NBA if everything goes to plan, stays healthy, and he becomes fully developed. What does that look like, Zach?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Because I think right now I look at him as like a white Sean Marion with a better jump shot, right? Which I think is an excellent player. I don't think he has a very good handle, and I think that kind of affects how he gets into his pull-up jumpers and some of his attack off the dribble. I think it creates some turnover problems at the end of games, but also he's super young, so he has plenty of time to work on the handle and fix that stuff. I think the rest of his game is really good. I think his instincts are great. He's a great defender, great defensive instincts, great motor, all that stuff. So I like if he develops the handle, if he develops all that, I don't know. Like he kind of reminds me of at that point, like maybe a little bit taller Paul George.
All right.
Like that, like maybe that. I don't know if that's a great comp, but I think that type of player, like I don't think he's going to be this ultimate franchise changer, right? I don't think he's like a Zion if Zion was healthy. I don't think he's a Wemby, but I think he's an awesome player. Like I think he's a second best player on a great team.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's an interesting take on it. You do hear, and you tell me if you hear this, I feel like I hear that this is maybe not LeBron Wembanyama, but maybe just right there. Not on that level, but maybe half a level below, because it feels like the Jazz are one of, 8, 9, 10 teams, and we're going to get there in a moment, that clearly have sacrificed the intent of winning with the possibility of landing him. Are you hearing from other people that they're a little bit higher on him than you seem to be? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are plenty of people that think he's like a franchise changer. I just think that's asking a lot out of any prospect, right? And I mean, he's on a loaded Duke team, right? Like if he was doing this on a team that isn't nearly as talented as what he's playing, and I'm not saying like he's like any of his play isn't dominant and isn't worth. Like he's been awesome. He's been as good as advertised, if not better. I just think it's tough to judge in that way. Like his team is so good and he's been so good. I don't know where you say that's him versus that's just the program in general and the team in general. And so like, I don't know how he's going to create a shot at the NBA level consistently. And if he isn't like an easy natural scorer at the NBA level, then can you be that guy that's like the number one guy? I don't know if that's possible. And so I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be like, if he's Paul George without the corniness and without the podcast, that's a great player. like, and without the fear of Joe Ingles and end of game situation, like that's a great player. Like maybe he's what Paul George should have ended up being.
Oh,
like
man.
That's a great player.
No, that's actually a good pull, because once upon a time, man, I don't know, maybe for the final 2 years he was healthy in Indiana.
Yeah.
We talked about Paul George as if he was one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league. We did.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he was one of those guys. He got the kind of the confirmation from LeBron in those series with Indiana and Miami. I mean, he was one of those guys, and again, he still had a great career. He's a Hall of Famer, like all that stuff, right? I don't want to pretend he's not great, but you don't look at him as like the guy on a number one team, right? And I just think it's asking a lot. Like, you want to know, if I were not a coward, I would start saying Maluach is the guy I think is going to be the best in the class.
Really?
I don't know what it is about him. I think like that's like my hottest take, knowing that Cooper Flagg is most likely going to be it. But if I had the number 2 pick, I would risk it on him.
You're not
he's awesome.
You're not doing like the hipster media thing, like when Wembanyama was coming out, where people would be like, "Hey, I kind of like Scoot," and you're like, "Don't do that."
No.
Okay.
No. If I had the number 1 pick, I would take Cooper.
Okay.
Right, like outright. But if I had the number 2 pick, as good as Dylan Harper looks, Ace Bailey's kind of everyone's cooled off on him. I think Maluach is like he's barely played any basketball. He has incredible defensive instincts. He has a great touch offensively. He knows what he's like. He just knows what he's doing, even though he hasn't played. And he's a great defensive presence. Like I'm not saying he's going to be this, but like there are some real like Joel Embiid vibes with just a similar story. And he's ahead of what any big man should be, just in terms of coordination within the game and knowing how to play with how little experience he has. Like I would risk it on him with number 2.
Very interesting. All right. I know it's been a number of years since you covered the Kings and have been in Sacramento, period. So I don't know if you know Wes Wilcox, but I will kick the tires with you on a story that has a local flavor, with Wes Wilcox coming to the University of Utah as their new general manager via the Sacramento Kings, which was his most recent job as the assistant GM there. He was the GM of the Hawks for 3 years, and then prior to that was the assistant general manager. He hired Alex Jensen when Wes was in Cleveland running the G League team to coach the Canton Charge, and that's where Alex was G League Coach of the Year, and they won the G League championship. So that's the origin story of their relationship. But he now becomes the highest-ranking sitting NBA front office person to take a college job. Zach, what do you make of this?
Well, also don't forget, he and I have done some radio shows together back when he was on Sirius XM NBA radio.
I should have led with that. That's on me.
That's obviously the big part of the resume. Yeah. No, Wes is great. Like I don't really know Wes. I've done a couple of things with him work wise, but he's a super smart dude. Like he knows the game. It doesn't surprise me that he's leaving Sacramento, because this is going to shock you. There might not be a whole lot of stability within that organization.
You don't say.
Yeah, like there might not be the most well-run organization lately. After like a year of where it looked promising. So, I don't fully know what happened there with him enough to feel comfortable saying like nothing bad. Like I just think, that just influences change constantly within that organization when they shouldn't, and so I think it's smart for him to be out of there. It's an interesting position to go from there to now this in vogue role of general manager of a college program. We obviously saw Woj do. We saw Steph Curry kind of is doing it with Davidson, I think. Now Wes is doing it. I think it's going to be more of a trend in the next like year or two than people realize. Like I think this is going to be with all the money being thrown around in college sports, like above board now, I think it's going to be a very lucrative, sought after position, and I think it's smart of him to get in early.
Let me ask you, since you do have some experience with him, is he analytic driven? Does he have a back? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, analytic driven, like, and just very on it, like just like knows the game, knows the analytics, like but like very analytic driven.
So a nerd.
Nerdish. Yeah.
Look, I'm not that is a term of endearment, like nerds are running pro basketball. Like I'm not knocking on them. I wish I was more of a nerd. I just can't shake how cool I am, Zach. It's a problem.
That's our cross to bear, right?
It is. Yeah. You and I cut from the same cloth.
Just the coolest. Yeah.
Okay. So have I talked to you about the new narrative that's going on in the market about, hey, this is not a rebuild because it's been a 3-year tear down?
Yeah. Yeah. You told me that last week, and that's still. Wow, what an interesting way to spin that.
I really don't know if I'm more like embarrassed for the messenger or the people that are like, oh, totally, this has been a teardown. Like there are people that are buying it, like eating it up.
Yeah, because you want to think the best in terms of hope, right? Like I understand wanting to buy it because if this is technically year 3 of the rebuild, uh-oh. Like, that's not great, right? That's not amazing when you get doubled up in the second half last night. And I mean, I tuned into like maybe 4 minutes of that third quarter and thought, I can't do this. I've got better things to do. Like, this is not how I'm spending the rest of my night. I will watch literally anything else. And then seeing Will Hardy's comments after the game, I thought, oh, maybe I should have watched that. Now it seems even better than what I thought. Yeah, like I understand wanting to believe it. I just don't know how you can honestly believe it. Like at a certain point, the reality has to set in of like, no, like the second you trade Gobert and Mitchell, that's the rebuild. No matter how, okay, you won 30 games in those couple of years. Like, okay, great. That doesn't mean it wasn't a rebuild.
No, it's just like some of the stuff, who do you think you're talking to? Like, I can remember, I think it was the second year after they traded Mitchell and Gobert in year 2, I had somebody down there say, hey, we were trying to tank, but Will's too good. And I'm like, who coaches the Spurs? Sorry, like, what are you talking about? Like, your coach is too good for you to tank? Who coaches San Antonio? Give me a break.
Oh, that bum Greg Popovich doesn't know how to coach? What are we doing?
Jeez. I will say, like, Will has had a couple of post games where you do get a glimpse into how frustrated he might be. And I don't blame him, man. Like last night when he decided to take his team to task, I was like, good for you. Because if I'm Will Hardy, I'm over this. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, look, you know what the deal is, right? You know the goal is to lose games, to put yourself in a position to get the number 1 pick and to end up with Cooper Flagg and have like your guy moving forward. That is the point of the rebuild, is to get the guy. And if you believe Cooper Flagg is the guy, then mission accomplished, right? So he's not unaware, but like you got to do it better than this. Right? You got to do it more competitively than this. Like, even the Wizards are playing competitive basketball right now.
Yeah.
The Wizards are making this look better. That can't be. You can't look worse than the Wizards in this.
Yeah. No, that should not be the area you find yourself. I'm going to pose the question that I've asked your buddy Tom Haberstroh. Tim McMahon stopped by, and Tom brought up, because we're talking about the tanking and how there's like a third of the league that's not even trying, and it makes watching pro basketball, NBA basketball, just unbearable. And Tom brought up the potential, like in the NFL, we've got John Elway, we've got Eli Manning, and then Deion Sanders is kind of floating out the idea that if he doesn't like where Shador's drafted, he might get involved. And Tom was like, that might happen in the NBA at some point, where a prospect is, high speed ahead to a dead end situation. If you're Cooper Flagg's dad, if you're his agent, if you're his reps, and I say, okay, your options are Utah, New Orleans, Washington, Charlotte. I'll give you those 4. Where would you want your kid to land and why?
Man, that's because if you look at, like, I look at Charlotte and I would just, I think you have to look at Charlotte a little bit and be like, all right, they did just get new ownership and new everything, right? New coach, new management, new ownership. Maybe that'll be better. You look at Washington. I look at like Ted Leonsis and running that. I'd be like, man, not my circus, not my problem. I don't want a part of that, right? Like I'm good. You look at Utah or New Orleans. I'd be like, all right, I like a lot of things there, but man, everybody gets hurt. Like everybody gets hurt, and I don't believe in like all that cosmic stuff, obviously outside of like crystals and Mercury and retrograde and all that stuff. Of course, that's deeply personal to us. But like, I wouldn't want to play with my career there, just in case that stuff's real. And then Utah, no offense to the market, like it's not an attractive market, but at least historically, out of all 4 of those teams, that's the most well-run organization. You see Justin Zanuck, you see Danny Ainge, like. There's competency on the horizon. Like I think I would have to pick Utah and just be like, that's where I need to be just to have a chance at like playing good basketball.
Yeah, and I think Will can coach. I really do. I want to see him with a good roster at his disposal. All right, before I set you loose, the theme on the show, Tommy wrote about it for Yahoo, and Tim Bontemps and Pelton wrote about it for ESPN. Literally a third of the league is unserious about winning. Literally. 10 teams are just like, we don't give a rip about what happens tonight. I don't care what the league says. And yes, I know the number is $72 billion for the new TV deal. This sucks. And watching the NCAA tournament has been such a great reminder of watching basketball when people really care about it. Is there a solution that you've heard that you think actually makes sense to curtail this, or is this just the deal in perpetuity?
No, there's not an idea I've heard that curbs this. I think it just has to be a perfect storm of like there are fewer injuries. Maybe there's a bad draft class, like maybe that helps. More teams are in the hunt for a play-in tournament, and you don't have dominant teams at the top of the conferences like in the way that we see. Like I don't know. I really don't know, but it's not. I think the criticism of the product for most of this season within like just the public conversation has been BS. Like I just think it's been a lazy, unfounded conversation. Lately, it's rough, man. It's like it's a bad product the last couple of weeks, and Eric Corrine wrote about it for The Athletic maybe a couple of days ago. He covers the Raptors and does a great job, and he's like, "Hey, this is gross. Like this is not good." And I'm with him. I'm with Tom. Like it's something that I don't know how you fix, but can you really get by? Like, are they hoping that March Madness is just a distraction during this time? They're still getting their revenue, and all right, we'll get to the play-in tournament in a couple of weeks. Like that can't be the plan.
It's rough. It is. There's no doubt. All right, buddy, I'll set you loose. I wish you could enjoy sunshine, but I guess we're spoiled here in Salt Lake.
Well, I'll put it on my vision board.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
All right, buddy.
Zach Harper from The Athletic. I always appreciate his time. Vision board.
Got yours yet?
I don't want to talk about it.
Fill it up with some positive thoughts.
No, you're supposed to hang pictures of it and manifest, and you're supposed to exist with the feeling as if it's already happened.
Right.
Because, Porter, what is for you will always flow to you. Write that down. Zach Harper stops by today, courtesy of the Salt Lake Bees. The Salt Lake Bees have a new hive. Join us for opening week, April the 8th through the 13th. As we kick off our inaugural season at the ballpark at America First Square in South Jordan, every game will feature exciting giveaways. Don't miss out. Experience the thrill of America's favorite pastime and join us this season for professional baseball. Family-friendly entertainment and unforgettable moments. Giveaways include pennants, T-shirts, beanies, and more on every night of the first homestand. Single-game tickets are on sale now. Visit slbees.com for more information. This season, the Bees will feature fireworks and drum nights throughout the season, brunch every Sunday home game. Bark in the park for 9 games, which means you can bring your dog to the game. Don't get weird. They got a Superman night, cowboy theme night. The ballpark at America First Square is designed for year-long use. Coming soon, a brand new Bees team store will be open all year. The site will also have a megaplex theater that includes movies, bowling, arcade, and dining, restaurants, and a concert stage. The Salt Lake Bees are dedicated to providing a premium experience with wallet-friendly ticket pricing. The privately financed stadium has a capacity of 8,000 fans and offers open lawn, premium club, and field-level seating options. There's going to be a ticket and a seat for every type of fan. The new amenities at the ballpark at America First Square at or near the compared to other minor league baseball facilities and on par with many major league facilities. We're going to clean that copy up. Don't worry. Fan amenities, locally inspired concessions, and grab-and-go market using smart technology, alcohol-free family zones, spectacular views of the Wasatch Mountains, improved transportation, and access to the ballpark, more parking, lower costs for parking, a brand-new track stop at center field for America First Square, increased walkability, curated game day experience for fans at America First Square, comfortable seats, an expensive video board, premium seating options, fans seated behind home plate. In the new field suites will be closer to the batter than the pitcher. Visit slbees.com to get your tickets and see the Bees. Neil Smith joins us coming up next. Talk a little hockey. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. hopefully you're laying by a pool today.
Things ain't
Or
got
playing
a
golf, because this is the
little
warmest day we've
trouble.
had in quite some time. Let's talk a little hockey now. Neil Smith, Wednesday afternoon. Neil, where do we find you, and how's the weather today?
I'm in New York on the way to the Islanders game, and the weather here is brisk as always, and the traffic is monotonous as always.
We need to get you out to Salt Lake, Neil. Have you been to our fine city before? I don't even know this about you.
I was there for your grandmother's funeral.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Should have known that.
That's the only time I was there.
Okay.
That's the only
Fun
time I
times.
was there. Yep.
All right.
A long time ago.
Should have known that. How was dinner, by the way? I haven't been able to check in. You guys have a good time?
Excellent. Yeah, we had a really fun time reminiscing and laughing, and it was really fun. There was 4 of us, as I told you, and it was great to see them all.
That's great. That's great. All right, Neil. You kind of you've been very good all year to paint the picture of where you thought the hockey club would be, the Utah Hockey Club would be, while at the same time being very realistic about a rebuild. And it's probably time to say, not happening this year. It's an 8-point gap, and the Blues, they can't lose. They've won 7 straight games, so it's like less the Utah Hockey Club's fault and more that St. Louis caught fire. But 8-point gap with 12 games to play. Is it time to say we're not going to see playoff hockey in Salt Lake this year?
Yeah, hopefully the players and the coaches aren't going to say that, but yeah, I think on the outside, if you want to be a realist, you should say that. As I have said many times with you, that if you go on a run, you could make it, and that's what St. Louis has done. They've won 7 in a row. I mean, that's what it takes, and to break apart from that group of teams, and you know what? Give them all the credit in the world. I didn't see that coming out of St. Louis, but Jim Montgomery, their coach, was fired this season, earlier in the season, by Boston, who are now dreadful and going to miss the playoffs in the East, and he's got his St. Louis Blues heading for that wild card spot.
Tell me what has happened with them. How did they turn it on? Because like you, I mean, and as you know, St. Louis is one of the clubs I follow because of the family ties. I'll always be a blue sweater guy. I'll always be a Ranger guy, but I didn't see this coming from them. How have they been able to turn this on, this 7-game winning streak?
Well, I think one of the things, and I don't get to see every one of their games, but I think one of the things that's really improved them is their speed, and they got Broberg and the defenseman and Holloway from Edmonton on offer sheets in the summer, and I think that really helped them, along with the rest of the players that they have. And their goaltending has been pretty good. Binnington, as you know, has won a Stanley Cup before, so I got to give a lot of credit to Montgomery, to be honest with you, because he's got them turned. I didn't see this coming either. I know that now they're a faster team than they were, and perhaps that's helping them get by.
So from the hockey club perspective, look, you referenced this, and we find ourselves in an interesting place here in our market where we have a rebuilding basketball team and a rebuilding hockey team. And, the players and the coaches will never concede that this thing is done, but they also look at the standings and they also understand math and numbers. So what's Coach Torney's task now to keep this team motivated, even though it's probably not realistic that the playoffs will be a part of their future, at least this year?
Well, I think he has to tell them that they've got to play for their own individual futures, and that they've got to keep proving to management and management around the league that they're deserving of being in the league or deserving of the next contract or whatever, and that they should be back on the hockey club again next year. And they don't get rid of me in the summer. There's plenty of reasons why you should go hard here at the end of the year and keep going hard. First of all, you never know what could happen, and I reference St. Louis again. But on the other hand, you've got your family to play for. You've got your own career to play for, and show everybody that you belong.
So have you seen enough? I was asked this question on a local TV hit this week because, I've been saying now, and it's not just that it's an 8-point gap with 12 to play. I mean, I think a lot of people that understand the NHL and how things work, even 3-4 points with 15, 16 left, it doesn't seem like a lot. And to your point, anything can happen, but it's hard to make up for things like not winning at home and things like not closing out games when you have leads going into the third, and then the lack of grabbing points early on comes back to bite you come late March, early April. But if we play the tape forward, have you seen enough this year, and knowing what you know about Bill Armstrong and the rebuilding process, to believe that playoff hockey could be part of our future as early as next year?
Oh, I think so. I don't see why not. It'll depend on doing some additions and, hopefully not many subtractions. You've got to have the Connor Ingram situation cleared up, and that means the whole goaltending situation, because you can't play Vejmelka every single game, and he's had to do that so far because of the absence of Ingram. But I think with a couple of tweaks and now with this ownership and the money that they can invest into player personnel, I could see them. They're not trying to win a division title next year, but I could certainly see them being next year's St. Louis or next year's Minnesota Wild. I don't see why not.
What do they need, Neil? And you referenced the situation with the goalies, and we'll see what happens with Connor. And obviously everybody's hoping that he's hanging in there and doing well as he's attending to some emotional things that he needs to get through. And we all, of course, support that. They did sign Vejmelka to a contract extension, and they have the bulk of their young players under contract. And they grabbed Mikhail Sergachev, which by all accounts has been a great signing, even with a couple of injuries here or there. But next steps, what do you think they need to take the proverbial next step to potentially make the postseason next year?
Well, one of the intangibles that I think that could really help them is another really seasoned veteran, a guy that's been around a while and has been through the ups and downs of a season in Stanley Cup playoff play, and settles down the younger guys and the guys that might get rattled in certain aspects, or can mentor guys like Dylan Gunther and people like that have very promising futures. You never have enough defensemen, as you know, because we saw the defense go out early this season for Utah, and it took a while to get those guys healthy again. So I would say those are the two biggest things: the goaltending situation and fortifying the defense. And then, who knows who's going to become available up front if you could get another big guy down the middle. I mean, center ice is a very important position. So hopefully there's a lucky Shamrock somewhere.
Do you think the Islanders can sneak into the playoffs? You're going to see them play.
I see them play all their games. And you know what? They've been really a head scratcher because they traded Brock Nelson to Colorado. They have been out of it most of the season, and now all of a sudden they put together a few wins, not as many as St. Louis, but they're still in the mix. They're hanging around, and the Rangers are hanging around. And so can the Islanders make it? It's doubtful. They've got to play, over 600 hockey, and that's what I go by. If you take the like, for example, Spence, if you take the 8th seed in the West and you extrapolate out the points that they've got in the games they've played, and you say that they're going to stay on that pace the rest of the season, then that's the number of points that a team underneath them needs to get to, and get one more to get by them. So, and then you can say, well, to get that many points, they've got to play 600 or 700. They're not going to be able to do that. Islanders have to play extremely well to get in now. They'd have to come up with some big wins. They've got a couple of back-to-backs that are going to be really important to prove out whether or not they can do it. Just like the Rangers, they were in LA last night. They lost to the Kings, and they've got 2 days off, and then they go back-to-back with Anaheim and San Jose. And they have to win those 2 games, in my opinion, to stay in the race. That's the Rangers.
I do not want to ask you a question you're not prepared to answer. So if you don't have anything with this, or you feel like you need to do a little more research, I understand. But as we kind of project ahead to the off season for the hockey club and needs that we've already talked about, they have a lot of money and they've got a lot of cap space. Are you up to date on potential free agent targets, players that are coming up on the end of the contract that they could potentially look at to bring in?
Well, I'd just give you, and I would want to do a little bit of more research, but I can tell you I'm on my way to see a guy play tonight, Brock Besser, who plays for Vancouver, who's a stud, who's a really good forward, a goal scorer, who's a UFA at the end of the year. And if Vancouver don't get him signed, he's going to be a major signing for somebody. So that's just throw that one name out there, Spence, because I don't have, to be honest with you, other names. I just know that this guy's an excellent player, and for some reason they don't have him signed. And if that stays that way till July 1st, he's up for bids.
Tell me what the league-wide reputation is for Clayton Keller, who's the captain of the hockey club, leads the club in both, he's second in goals, first in assists by far, 78 points. And he just comes across as the best kid. You know, every time he's interviewed, he says the right thing, seems to be very respected, even though he's a young player and well-liked. League-wide, what's the reputation of who I perceive to be our brightest star here, and that's Clayton Keller?
Well, first of all, I want to brag a little bit and say that I did say on my podcast before the season started, I picked him as my breakout player of the year. So I have to get that little bragging rights in there. But the St. Louis, Missouri-born Clayton Keller is known as a real good player, and as you said, he's got a reputation as a good kid. That's why I'm sure they made him captain, because he's got some leadership ability, and I think his growth is just going to keep going. He's playing. He's not big, but he's playing at a time when you don't need to be big. If you're skilled and fast and can shoot, you can do some good things in this league, and he can do all those things. So I think any team in the league would love to have him. So,
Neil, we have certain records in sport that feel like they are unbreakable in the moment. And Alex Ovechkin I don't know if he's going to do it this year. Still needs six goals away from Wayne Gretzky's record. But once upon a time, it felt like nobody would ever touch this. Right? 889 goals, which is just stupid to even think about. Put this into perspective, is if Ovechkin is able to, and he'll do this, but like I said, he's going to need to get 6 in the final, 11 games. Put this into perspective. Alex Ovechkin breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. What does that mean in the ecosystem of pro hockey?
Well, not only is he breaking Wayne's, but he's breaking everybody's. In other words, what I mean is everybody that's come around from the original 6, from Gordie Howe to Phil Esposito to all the rest that are behind him right now, and then the great Wayne Gretzky, who's of course got records that can't be ever broken. I mean, his record for points in his career is insane. But it goes to show that Alex Ovechkin truly is the greatest goal scorer in history. I mean, that's just factual now. And it's not like he's played 30 years. He's played 20, which is not, way above what a lot of veteran players have played in the past. So to put it in perspective, he's up there with the completely generational, above a franchise player, a league player, a player that sells tickets in other buildings. And just a phenomenal thing, and a great thing for us to be able to see during our lifetime, and have it right in front of our eyes.
Would he be considered the greatest player of this generation? And I know you probably don't love the whole basketball parallel that I do all the time, but it's kind of like the Jordan LeBron thing, where most people believe Michael is the greatest of all time, but everybody believes LeBron is the greatest of this generation. Is it kind of an accurate analogy, if we could be analogous there, with Gretzky being like Jordan and maybe Ovechkin kind of being LeBron-like?
I think it wouldn't be fair if I skipped over Sidney Crosby, who's been in the exact same generation as Ovechkin. I think those two have made the game excellent for the last 20 years, and they've done it in different ways. Sidney has won 3 Stanley Cups. Ovechkin has won 1 cup, but then been a show all by himself. Sidney has been more of a leader of a team, and when I say that, I'm not diminishing what Ovechkin's done for the Caps. I'm just trying to say that they're different types of players, and I think that those two guys together have made this generation of product really exciting for the league and helped grow the league. They came in just after Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, who I think were the previous generation, 2 guys that carried the league on their back. And I think Sidney and Ovechkin carried the league on their back.
All right, Neil, before I set you loose, let's revisit who you like in both conferences. The Caps lead the East, and they're 8-1-1 their last 10. Carolina's been really good as of late. Toronto, Florida, and Tampa Bay have just been so-so as of late, but they're dialed in. Ottawa's had a nice little run. Out this way, Winnipeg still has the lead, but Colorado's been really good, as have the LA Kings as of late. We already talked about the Blues. So if you had to pick today, West Conference, East Conference, who do you like to come out?
I'm leaning more and more towards Colorado if they can, if their goaltending can hold up. I really like Winnipeg, and they had two terrific games with Washington in home and home. Both went into overtime. I don't know why I'm saying Colorado other than my instincts, but I do like Winnipeg and Colorado in the West. I really do like Washington in the East, but I think that Florida's going to give everybody trouble again because they're going to play that playoff-style hockey, and they're going to know how to play it right off the bat, right from the first round. And now they got Marchand. I can't imagine Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Matt Tkachuk all together coming at you every night for 2 weeks. So if I had to pick, I'd pick Florida again.
All right, my friend. We'll enjoy the game. Always appreciate the time, and have a great week, and we'll chat soon. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks for having me, Spence.
All right. Great Neil Smith, general manager of the Rangers, Stanley Cup winner in 1994. I was unaware that Neil's been in Salt Lake before, and probably should have remembered that one.
You were busy.
Go ahead and pull that sound, because in the moment, I don't think I fully appreciated how awkward that probably was. I got a couple of texts, people listening to the show. We'll play it before we say goodnight at 6. Okay, Neil Smith has been to Salt Lake before, and he reminded me why. And there was no easy way to transition out of it, so we just traversed on with the interview. Chris Camerani live in studio. Coming up on the other side, but Neil Smith stops by courtesy of our good friends at Burt Brothers with over 30 years of experience in nearly 30 locations. Burt Brothers ASC certified technicians bring expertise and professionalism to every interaction. I'm talking industry-leading warranties and low-price tire guarantees. It's a one-stop shop for reliable repairs and maintenance. From tires and alignments to fluids and brakes, offering a full range of automotive services tailored to meet your needs. Now offering value tire options such as Americas and Summit tires, starting at just $69 with warranties that go up to 70,000 miles. As one of the few AAA certified shops in Utah, Burt Brothers upholds the highest standards in automotive service. Stop by Burt Brothers or Tire Busters locations or schedule an appointment today to experience the trusted service that has made them a Utah favorite for over 3 decades. Burt Brothers doing it better since day one. More information can be found online at burtbrothers.com. All right, we've got 2 hours down. We got 2 hours to go. Little NFL news broke earlier. Stephon Diggs is on his way to play for the New England Patriots. Wes Wilcox is on his way to be the general manager of Utah men's basketball. That became official a couple of hours ago, and we'll get back to that coming up in a bit. Pablo Mastroianni started things off today to talk a little RSL, moved over some NBA with Zach Harper, a little hockey with Neil Smith, and now an hour of Radio Gold with our guy Christopher Camerani, who's walking across the street in shorts and a T-shirt. He's going to be in a good mood, which is good for us. So keep it right here on a Wednesday drive on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. We are proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network.
sinner must die.
Zach Harper.
Oh, sinner man, you better pray. Times are coming when the sinner...
From a TV series. Soundtrack TV, because I'm not going to lie. At the gym the other day, not a big deal, part of my life. Laguna Beach soundtrack, Dashboard Confessional. Let's turn his mic on. And it hit, CK.
Oh, I remember.
Oh, man. Big Laguna Beach, The Hills, greatest reality TV of all time.
I was Laguna Beach over the OC. I know different.
Oh, for sure.
Documentary versus, drama. I understand.
Yeah, yeah.
I was way Team Laguna Beach over the OC.
No, LC is still like a sister to me.
Oh, is she?
I was always Team Kristen, but LC is like a sister.
And I remember it was a big deal because one of them was Mormon. So the Utahns were so excited.
Oh, which one?
Morgan.
Yes.
Morgan.
Oh, my gosh.
Come on, dude. I'm here.
Good pull. And then Stephen Coletti, that clown, juggling both of them.
Yeah.
So that was supposed to be the theme. And Porter played. So that was from a TV show, Yellowstone, right?
No.
Sounded like Yellowstone.
That was from Gemstones.
Oh, Righteous Gemstones. We should have known that. Christopher Kamrani, live in studio, dressed for spring. How are you, sir?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Vitamin D, it hits, right?
So much. I can't get enough of it.
Are you caught up on Gemstones?
I am.
Are you watching White Lotus?
Oh, yeah.
So good.
I'm not that impressed with this season so far, to be honest with you.
For some reason, I love it. I don't know what it is.
Individual performances are good, but it's taking a while to get to, like, the crux of it.
Uh-huh.
I guess I just really like the first two seasons. I'm a sucker for Italy for a multitude of reasons.
Sure.
It's my favorite place to go. Hawaii, second favorite place to go.
Mm-hmm.
And Thailand looks cool, man. I wouldn't lie. Do you know how much it costs to stay at that real life 4 seasons per night?
I do not.
Yes.
The way,
In one of the villas where the fancy people are staying.
the way you're asking it would indicate it's $2,200 a night. $4,600 a night. $7,000. What?
10 grand.
In Thailand?
Yep.
I thought the whole point of Thailand, unless you're a white girl between the age of 25 and 30 trying to find yourself, is you can go there and it's cheap.
And yeah, I mean, cheap food, cheap pretty much everything. But dude, that place is like fake. That place is not even real.
It looks awesome.
So I mean, if I know you have VC Bros,
Indeed.
I don't know if we can come up with some sort of nonprofit starting organization. Maybe they want to invest. Do like an all-inclusive trip to Thailand.
Is it time to admit that? Do I want to say this? Are all nonprofits just scams? Like,
no,
not all. I shouldn't say all, but I feel like, and I
501c3 baby.
Yes, I have some people in my ecosystem, and I will not say who out loud, but have started a nonprofit, and they come up with something to like fool people, like, hey, this is a real thing that we should care about, and then suddenly they're in Cabo like 3 weeks out of every month. It's a little shady.
Okay. Well, I guess we're getting a little too far away from the point, but we should go to Thailand if we
bring it back around.
If we can somehow conjure up 80 to 90 grand.
Okay.
But I don't know, man. Like, I'm more of an urbanite. I think the Bangkok Rick experience seems way more interesting to me than sitting by a pool with a bunch of rich people. That doesn't really apply to me or like get me going at all anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to fly 24 hours across the world, I'm not trying to go just sit by a pool.
Do you think Goggins kills him?
No, it's his dad.
What?
Yeah, dude. Come on, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Is that a spoiler?
No.
Or is that a guess?
It's a guess. Scott Glenn's his dad.
Okay.
The great Scott Glenn, who was the dad of the main character in Leftovers.
Yes,
so
he was.
He's an HBO guy.
Another great show. You turned me on. I'll give you complete credit for Leftovers. Phenomenal HBO show if you have not seen it.
So last show pitch before I'm sure we move on to some sports.
Yeah. We did 20 minutes on Philip Seymour Hoffman.
And it's kind of heavy, but it's the best show I've seen this year, and it's the best show that I've seen.
It's the Bobcat National.
The Pit
on HBO. Okay.
It is.
It's the Bob.
An hour by hour episodic where doctors and nurses show up at the ER that they work at, and every episode is 1 hour of their shift at an ER.
It has been recommended to me when I fire up Max.
It's really good, man, and it hits on a lot of societal things that we aren't good at, and it's very good. And
interesting.
It's a 15 episode season, So it's like some of these, fancy ones, 7, 8, 9, no, 15.
I got some flights coming up. I can fire that up. The Sam Rockwell.
Oh, dude, top 5,
awesome.
Top 5 dialogue delivery of all time. I mean, like I was Goggins in that. Like I had that look on my face.
I think we all were.
Time.
Yeah.
And if we're being honest, we know some people in our lives who probably have some Rockwell in them.
Okay.
At least I do.
Okay.
And
but not on that level.
Some of my friends were texting me and just be like, I could see if things went sideways for so and so, maybe. I mean, but anyways, love Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
Like an amazing actor, and I heard that there was going to be a surprise guest actor at some point.
Oh.
I didn't know it was going to be him.
Yeah.
I didn't know that our guy would deliver at the levels that he did. I mean, that is like ultimate. I'm trying to think like who would come off the bench back in the day and just hit like. I mean, that's like Kyle Korver peak Jazz, just coming off the bench and going like 6 of 8 from 3. Like, it was insane.
Since you brought up Kyle Korver, let's just, this is only on this show can we go from Sam Rockwell to Kyle Korver. I want to get back to Rockwell because I want to know what the best Rockwell movie is. Is there an obvious answer?
Individual performance. I love Moon.
Moon was good. Frost Nixon was excellent.
His I think he won an Oscar for 3 Billboards in Ebbing, Missouri.
He did win an Oscar. It was for that. That was okay.
And he is the very lewd, rude cop who has a full circle moment with Frances McDormand. And for your listeners who've never seen that movie, I highly recommend it. It's very, very good.
He was in Vice. Let's see. What was the movie that kind of burst him on the scene? It was the Clooney movie.
Well, he was in Matchstick Men, I think.
Matchstick. He was in Green Mile.
Yep. One of the spooky guys in Green Mile.
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Well, that was kind of like the... Yeah. Now suddenly everybody knew who he was.
That was Soderbergh, I think.
But you brought up Kyle Korver. Only on this show.
Let's go.
Okay, Sam Rockwell, Kyle Korver. Do you remember, because I was doing crosstalk with OC, we were talking about, he referenced Kyle Korver somehow. And Kyle Korver gave I don't know if the Jazz were doing like vignettes for the local TV media or whatever, but he gave an interview. Somebody asked him what his favorite snack was, and he said peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And then a local TV anchor showed up to a Jazz post-game media availability and brought him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And it was the most awkward thing.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. My Kyle Korver memories from a journalistic point of view are he was kind enough to spend like an hour with me breaking down why he's such a good three-point shooter for a story I did a very long time ago that I had forgotten about until now when he was getting close to breaking a record. And then secondarily, I was at one of the games where Donovan had a really rough playoff outing, and Kyle like called media people over to his locker to talk about like the weight that Donovan had on his shoulders at the time and how people shouldn't be hard on him. And I'd never really seen that before.
I think I remember that.
It was very, I mean, glue guys, right? Like veterans, they go far away. If you have the right ones. And I think everybody at the time was kind of stunned because generally when you're in the locker room and guys are done, they turn around and they look at their phone and get dressed and they want to get out of there.
I want to go home, yeah.
Yeah, but it was very enlightening, and I remember that those are my Korver memories.
It was always, when's the last time you were in a locker room?
Ooh. Very long time because it had to have been an NBA playoff game because the college football playoff, in theory, has open locker rooms, but they don't really. Like when I was down at the Rose Bowl for Oregon, Ohio State, Oregon just brought out a few guys and just had them speak outside the locker room.
Okay.
Like you didn't go in there. A lot of these guys find a way to wiggle around the quote-unquote rules. Generally, in a professional setting, it's more open. I don't know if RSL does it anymore. That's where I spent most of my locker room time when I was on the beat, was just going in there after, games and talking to guys. Wow. But I think they've changed it up a little bit as well. But the locker room dynamic is fascinating.
It was always interesting and kind of awkward because I was a PR intern for the Jazz for 2 years, and so I would go in and make sure the guys were ready before we let the media in. Then the media would come in, and guys would come out of the shower, take their towel off, sit down, start to get dressed, while the media is like awkwardly standing there waiting to ask them questions while these dudes are buck naked. It's kind of a weird thing.
It is. I mean, we could spend an hour or two.
We got 48 minutes, UK.
I feel like most organizations have figured it out. I mean, it all starts with communication. You have to communicate with the PR staff who you want to talk to. A unique thing in the world of if pro locker rooms, is the sidling. Brian Curtis, the Ringer, did a great story a few years ago about reporters that kind of stake out for one-on-ones after the throngs have moved on from one player to another. It's an interesting dynamic. I find it very fascinating. It's the inner workings of interpersonal communication at its both like finest when it works, but also like it could be its worst at the same time because it can be awkward if you're not good at it. And we've seen often how bad some people are at it. I mean, like at least once every 6 months, one of my best friends sends me the Russell Westbrook clip.
Oh, yeah.
Did the Jazz win or did you lose this one?
Yeah.
And Russ just delivering an all-timer. That's one example, and there is a litany of them. So just basically advice to folks who are coming up or who are doing it, just be prepared and be good.
We have one of the biggest idiots that's here actually ruined, was one of the reasons locker room dynamics in the NBA changed, and it was the origin story of nightlife with Golden State. Do you remember this?
I do.
So Golden State in town, and this was before the media was supposed to be allowed in to ask questions or whatever. Like all the players were talking off record, and this idiot, this clown, starts tweeting out a private conversation between Draymond Green and his teammates, and Draymond said something about the nightlife in Salt Lake, and this loser sends it out via Twitter. And that's how the nightlife thing exploded. Draymond was not on the record knocking on Salt Lake. Right. It was an off-the-record conversation he was having with teammates, and this bozo that isn't really a media member but claims that he is at times decided to send out these tweets like an idiot.
Well, and the irony of it all is the Warriors, a lot of Warriors staffers and players say that their favorite restaurant in the country is
Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
Valters, yeah.
Valters, yep. So
rest in peace.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we could keep going. Oh, wait, I wanted to tell you, because you brought up RSL. Have I ever told you about the time that Trey yelled at me because of Eddie Pope?
What? No, but I want to hear about it.
Locker room tie.
Okay.
So this was year one, Rice Eccles locker room. RSL players in that old University of Utah locker
South
room.
End zone.
Yeah, which was just a dump, and they've obviously redone it. It's great now. And KSL rolls up, and they wanted to do a vignette on Eddie. They wanted Eddie to come out, and they were going to do this vignette and put it on the news. And so Trey says, hey, Spence, go grab Eddie Pope. KSL's here. So I walk in the locker room, and I find Eddie in a towel. Said, Eddie, KSL's here. They want to do a vignette on you. Can you roll out? And Eddie said, yeah, I'm about to hop in the shower. So, okay, we'll just come out after you're done showering. So I walk out, and Trey's standing there, suit, credential, very serious, little general, as it were. And he says, where's Eddie? I said, he's showering. He was in his towel. He's about to hop in the shower. He's going to come out after his shower. And he goes, you've got to learn to be a professional. And I said, calm down, Lord Farquaad. Chill out.
Did Eddie dip?
No, he came out after the shower.
Okay.
But Trey was mad that Eddie wasn't following me. Here's what Trey was doing. He was flexing in front of the media.
He's preparing you.
He wanted Rod Zundel to think he was cool.
Zippy.
He wasn't preparing me. I didn't need to be prepared by Trey. He just wanted to flex in front of people like, hey, this
Rod
is my
Zundel
gig.
covered an RSL match.
Zippy was there.
Wow.
Our guy, Zippy. So, yes, that was when – and Trey and I used to go at it. We still do occasionally. Yeah. But he was upset that I could not drag Eddie Pope, who was in a towel, outside to do a hit with KSL.
Life's hard, man.
That's all you got on that?
I mean –
he was showing off. Trey.
No.
He was getting chesty. He had his fourth quad-shot vanilla latte from Starbucks in his hand from that day. And he just wanted to show people who he was.
Did they even make those back then, 20 years ago?
You know what? I think, actually, quad shot is less than – I think Trey liked 6 shots in his lattes. Elliot's first job with the club was fetching Trey coffee.
Text from Trey.
Yeah.
Missed the live shot.
Yeah. Well, we didn't. No, we didn't. He came out after the shower. Everything was fine. It was because of his damn caffeine addiction. He was mad at me because he had his sixth shot
Was it
latte.
after a training or after a game?
It was after training.
Okay. Because maybe if it was after a game and, emotions were running high.
No. What was I supposed to do? Eddie, take the towel off and get dressed.
Eddie, you need to get out there and you need to get Nicholas Pisano under your wing.
Good, Nick
because
Pisano, Paul.
He is the future of the club.
Nick Pisano, who John Ellinger once told me the only danger in drafting him is he'll be in Europe in 3 years. And he was backpacking, not playing soccer. Speaking of RSL, we're going to get a 9. We're going to get an addition. They're going to make some signings. We had Pablo on earlier.
What'd he say?
He basically said we need help. And he did drop 4 to 5 days. He thinks they'll get a couple across the line.
Well, 4 to 5 days, if you get it across the line, meaning you get documents signed.
Which is the problem, right?
And then you have to file for visas and all of the international travel stuff, which I would imagine is a little more difficult right now, depending on where some of these players play.
Good point.
And the window closes the last or second last week
April
of April.
23rd.
So, second
we're about
to last week of April.
We're less than a month away, man.
Yeah, and I think this was my biggest concern going into this thing was these things take time. They take a very long time often, and RSL could find itself in a place where they don't get a player over until late April, early May. Don't know when the last time that player played. Got to acclimate to the league, altitude, team, whatever.
Yeah.
And suddenly, this team that's already kind of behind the 8 ball is even more behind the 8 ball.
Good points. Depressing points, but good points. So,
well, I mean,
no, you're not wrong.
No, I know. I'm just saying, this team isn't good enough right now to rely on being able to stack up points late in the season. Last year, if they were able to maintain an Andres Gomez, if Chicho Arango's RSL career doesn't go south, that team was good enough. If it was up against it, this team's not. It's not even close.
So you tell me what's fair to say about the following, because I've heard this, and there's also a club spin on this as well. And I don't really know what the number is, okay, because it's not dollar for dollar. It's not, hey, you received 16, 17 million or whatever it is in exchange for the players you moved off of. I don't know what the number is.
You talking about the Gomez sale?
I'm talking about all of it. Gomez sale, you move off of Crooks, you sell Chicho for pennies on the dollar, but probably the bulk of it comes from selling Andres. And from the fan perspective, okay, good job, proof of concept, high five, reinvest the funds in talent. Is that fair?
It's not how it works.
Okay, so
not in MLS.
Help me understand.
You sell Andres for, I guess, at its top amount was maybe 14-ish. But if you think about how MLS works as a structure, it is a umbrella league. The reason why RSL can bring in designated players is because the league takes a majority of that budget hit per player salary. It is a very unique setup. It is very hard to wrap your head around.
The single entity stuff.
Single entity, exactly. It's a socialist league, a socialist sport,
Don't get woke. It's not the 5 o'clock hour yet, CK.
I'm just being honest.
Porter, hold the listeners at bay. We're about to get woke.
So I'm just saying, for the fans that are frustrated that RSL got 14 million, I promise you all of that 14 million did not go directly to RSL. It was interspersed through various entities, and that's just the way it goes, man. This is a unique league. It is a league that makes not a lot of sense more often than not. But I would caution RSL fans who are up, raising their fists at the sky saying, why don't we be able to spend at least some of this 14 million that we got for Andres Gomez on some players? I'm sure they got a decent chunk, but listen, man, this is ultimately a question that needs to be posed to the ownership group, because last year, or the last 2 years, you saw the ownership group invest more than it ever has. The Chicho transfer at $6 million was, a club record at the time, but now in MLS, a $6 million transfer is kind of average. So I know fans are frustrated with the front office and their lack of current moves, but the next time David Blitzer and his group get in front of a microphone locally, somebody needs to ask them what their plan is from a spending perspective, because it usually starts at the top.
A very smart person once said to me something along the lines of asking Ryan Smith to fix RSL is kind of like asking Dwayne Wade to fix the Jazz.
But Ryan isn't a majority owner in
But
RSL.
I don't think it's even on his radar.
And I understand that, but I think like.
By the way, that person was you, just so you know.
if Ryan is a 10 to 20 to 30% owner max, he's not running the day-to-day operations. And obviously, since he brought the hockey team here, you can tell that 100% of his attention has gone to the Jazz and getting a hockey team up and running within 6 months of being moved from a different location. I think Ryan Smith is an easy punching bag for RSL fans because they see, the Delta Center got remade and the hockey club came in and they're building the hockey facility down at Southtown and all that stuff. But it's like, he's not the majority owner. He is a partial owner. And if you have a gripe, you need to take it up with the majority owner who is in charge of signing the checks and signing off on potential big moves. And frankly, we don't hear from David Blitzer all that often or from the people that work for him.
Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, look, you know my deal. I'm a guy in my mid-40s with my hat on backwards, me and Rye, my guy. Over under 2.5 RSL players. Could Ryan name over under 2.5 RSL players right now? No chance, dude. He might get Justin Glad.
No, he'd get Luna. I think he'd get a Nelly.
So 2. Do you think he'd get 3?
I think he'd get 3.
And I think it's fair to wonder, how many soccer clubs does my guy Blitz? Blitz
has like 6 or 7.
6 or 7 clubs. Yeah. And is it fair to say RSL might be the smallest?
Oh, for sure.
So how much is it even on his radar?
Don't know.
So is the shine of the ownership transition, has it worn off?
I think so.
Yeah.
And again, this, if you put a microphone in somebody, they don't always have to tell you the whole truth, the entire truth, so help them God.
They actually never will.
Right.
In sports.
But I'm saying it can go a long way if they actually just provide some sort of updated context on where things are going or what the plan is.
If only they had a competent VP of communications to help further the message. So, final thing, do you think they get a couple across? It feels like they have to. Like, April 23rd cannot come and go without RSL grabbing a couple of players.
I mean, if they want to be good this year.
Yeah.
Like,
what are they, tanking?
No, they're not tanking. They just don't have a lot of talent.
For the MLS Super Drafts, get the number 1 overall pick?
Hey, man. Shout out Nate Bench. Emeka and Ellie, the team's captain, came through the MLS Super Draft. So
it is wild that Bench saw that.
He called it.
He did, 100%.
You have to hit on those like once in a while. But if we're talking about RSL being in the playoff hunt come, even July, August, they need to have 2 players come in that are close to, if not better than, most of the guys they have in the attack.
I agree, especially in the attack, because the midfield is good. I mean, they've got depth, certainly centrally when the holding mids, and the Kobe Henry kid's pretty good. The back line, I think, is all right. Maybe right back, right? The right back appears to be a bit of an issue.
I don't know why. I don't know if you asked your guy Pobbs about this, but Katranis needs to play more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, he's way more of a threat going forward, and maybe he's a little bit of a gambit that way. Like, you got to risk versus reward. He might not defend as thoroughly as the other dude, but it's a team that needs significant talent upgrades in order to contend. Otherwise, it could be curtains pretty fast.
So I was at the match.
Freezing your bleep off.
Man of the people, sitting amongst the people in the arena, okay, in the stadium, and I had a great view of that red card. Did you see it on TV?
I did.
Here's what felt rough, because Ojeda had the ball, and then the Dallas player pulled him intentionally. To me, you got to blow the whistle there, and then the play dies, and then the PL red card never happens. But you saw it on television. I didn't see a replay. Did the tackle look like it was dangerous enough to be, straight red?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you show your studs at a 45-degree angle and you catch a guy above his ankle, like, man, we've seen guys' legs snap at that. Like, he didn't mean to do it, but it just happens sometimes. And I don't necessarily – things happen so fast that even if a whistle would have been called, there's still a chance that Peel maybe doesn't hear it and still goes for a 50-50 ball.
Mm-hmm.
And once they slowed it down, it was lights out.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunate, but a bad break for a team that is just kind of middling at the moment. I mean, the win at Houston is important and could be important later on in the year, but they have a lot of questions to answer going into the summer because you're looking at a guy, a fan favorite that had a great showing with the U.S. men's national team, with the senior team, less than a year after not even making the Olympic team, in Diego Luna. And teams are going to come calling if they haven't already. And that will be the hardest PR hit, I think, for RSL.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, less than a month away, and then that window closes. Christopher Camerani, typically our Friday staple, is live in studio. Coming up on the other side, we'll switch gears from soccer. The madness of March continues, and CK's favorite topic, spring football. We'll get to some of that. CK stops by today, courtesy of our friends at IFA Country Stores. IFA Country Stores, they have everything you need to care for your lawn, no matter its size or shape. It is warm outside, so you got to start thinking about your lawn now. IFA's 4+ Lawn Care program can promote healthy green grass this summer. Visit with their team of Pro Turf and landscape consultants to help provide products and services to local baseball and soccer fields, golf courses, parks, and other city properties throughout Utah. It's the same knowledge and care that they share with you about your yard. More information can be found at ifa.coop. More with Christopher Camerani coming up next right here on ESPN 700. Is it because of your back?
Oh, yeah.
How you feeling, by the way?
It's getting better. Been doing lots of stretching and yoga.
Good.
Yeah.
I've been trying to
Every
get you
day.
on that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Every day now.
See, if somebody saw you on the street, they'd be like, that guy does yoga.
I know, right?
You're central casting, man.
I know. Central casting for a lot of things.
That you don't do, by the way.
That I don't do. My friends have always joked, my active members of the church friends have always said, like, I should go out for a church movie.
Oh, no. You...
Because I mean, hey, man.
You're a Lamanite. You're a Lamanite,
I'm a
bro.
Lamanite.
Yeah,
I can be, you know, if we're being historically accurate, could resemble a certain somebody too.
You
know?
could.
It just, you know,
JC.
I didn't say it, but
I did. Who's better to follow than JC? Isn't that Meet the Parents?
Yeah.
Right? How's your portfolio?
Greg's Jewish. Hey, so was JC.
That's right. We've been over this.
Yeah.
Best Ben Stiller movie, in my opinion, is Meet the Parents. You hit me with a hipster Ben Stiller movie that I
Heavyweights.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Heavyweights. Man, Tony Perkis is all time. I don't know. Have you seen?
I haven't. No,
bro.
but because I think you heard me talking on air, or maybe I sent out a tweet back when I used to tweet.
Yeah.
And I said I was watching Meet the Parents, and every time I rewatch Meet the Parents, I'm like, this is Stiller's best movie. And I think you hit me with a Heavyweights, and I have not seen it.
Heavyweights, but the prayer scene during Meet the Parents,
day by day,
every
day.
Oh,
three
dear
things
Lord,
we
three
pray.
things we like. My friends always joke like that was me back in the day, when you Chris, will you say a prayer? And I'm like, no, but if that was me, that's what I would say.
Were you ever called upon to pray when you were?
Oh yeah,
you were.
I wouldn't do it.
You just straight said no.
I'd say no, thank you. Yeah, you know
that takes a lot of guts.
Church ball. I just want to play church ball, man.
No, I hear you,
putting up threes
behind the back passes. To say no when you're asked to pray takes a lot of guts.
Well, I know where I stand on the hierarchy.
Porter, have you ever been asked to pray in a situation where you weren't comfortable?
You know where I'm from, sir.
I know where you're from, but how do you handle it? Like most people, I think, give it a whirl, like Ben Stiller and Meet the Parents.
Yeah, usually give it a whirl. Please bless this food.
You can fake it. It's not hard.
When I moved here, I didn't know. I always thought nourish and strengthen was one word. So I was like,
really?
What are these people saying, nourish and strengthen? I was like, I've never heard of this
Nourish
before.
and strengthen our bodies.
Yeah.
Let's just keep doing this. Why not? Let's just stay in the space. I'm actually kind of impressed. I have more respect for you for actually tapping out of the prayer than giving it a try.
Were you an amen or an amen?
Amen.
Okay.
Yeah,
I appreciate a good amen every once in a while.
Yeah, I like a good amen, but I'm straight amen. I'm old school, man. And I still get called upon.
Yeah?
I'll give it a whirl.
Three things.
Now all I want is a scene where you have been asked to pray because I believe your wife's family is of the faith.
Yeah.
So, but they know the deal.
They're so great. Yeah. They've
That's
never
good.
put me on the spot.
That doesn't surprise me. Your wife rules.
Yeah.
Chris Camerani live in studio. We did a bunch on Sam Rockwell last segment. Now we're doing a little Ben Stiller. Meet the Parents. I still think it's his best, but I have not seen Heavyweights. I'll give it a whirl. Let's see.
Find the transition. Try to get to the transition.
Well, I got a couple things that we need to get to. You haven't covered Utah football for quite some time. Spring football is going on.
How are the vibes?
The vibes seem high, but for spring football, don't the vibes have to be high? Isn't that the only thing that you want?
Are we playing audio of spring football interviews on the drive today?
We have not done it on the drive, but ESPN700sports.com and every other sports talk radio show in the market, you will hear spring football sound.
So let me guess. Live contact went great. Leadership is improving.
Mm-hmm.
Still some positional battles to sort through,
but we feel good about where we're at.
Feel good about where we're at. Have people started putting Devin Dampier on the Heisman watch list yet?
I don't think we've gone that far, but apparently he looks really good.
You'll get there.
Nate Johnson, athlete.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Doing some things.
I mean, I guess it's exciting for media members who still cover the Utes to be able to watch 20 minutes of practice and only get to share certain things under the guise of a tyrannical rule. But listen, man, nobody knows what the hell this team's going to look like
of course.
In the fall.
Of course.
And we say that every year, but this maybe more so than in maybe ever under Kyle Whittingham, the amount of roster turnover they've had, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they're lucky they invested in the offensive line because the offensive line was good and they kept it intact, which is huge. So that will be a benefit for them going forward. But they got a new offensive coordinator. They got an exciting quarterback who can make a lot of things happen. But I'm going to be the guy that brings everyone down to earth and say, like, he accounted for 40 touchdowns or whatever last year. He threw 12 interceptions and threw 12 picks. Or 12 touchdowns, 12 picks. Not a great ratio. That will not work in the Big 12. Obviously, they know that. And wide receiver, man, we talk about this every year. Can you name one wide receiver on that roster right now?
Dorian Singer is not on the team.
Nope.
So that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Because they thought they were going to grab him, get him back. I will tell you one thing that stood out to me as I was listening to the sound. And look, like you, I get the deal here. Spring football is to give the addicts the fix. That's what it is. You want the sound, ESPN700sports.com. The media members that sweat up there because they're so excited are the ones that need it straight in the vein. Absolutely. Coach Witt, though, on a number of occasions already has said the following. We have more positive energy in the building this year than we have in a while. That's the one thing where my antenna went up a little bit. Like, it hasn't been a one-off where he just said it. He has said it multiple times. There's more positivity, more positive energy. And look, Kyle doesn't suffer fools. He's not one that's going to give you a bunch of lip service. So that, to me, did stand out as something as opposed to all the fluff and BS about Nate Johnson being fast.
Well, I would imagine. Well, one, a lot of that is on them. It's on the coaching staff. It starts with Kyle and his staff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the toll of the injuries of the last 2 years has been pretty remarkable. I can't, imagine going from 2 years ago when everybody was dropping like flies. You fight to an 8-4 season in the last year of the Pac-12, the best year of the Pac-12, and then to go into last year with so much momentum, be a shoo-in for a lot of pundits for the college football playoff, and then to have the most frustrating season in Kyle Whittingham's tenure. Yeah, that's going to grate on a lot of people because in this day and age, you're only as good as your quarterback, and Cam wasn't healthy the last couple of years, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
So now you have so many new faces, you have so many new coaches, you have a quarterback in Devin Dampier that has a lot of people, not just locally, a lot of people that I work with, guys who grind tape, guys who are a lot smarter than me, have told me that they think Devin Dampier has a very high ceiling, and if Jason Beck can get this offense humming with the amount of talent they have, then Devin Dampier can be one of the best players in the Big 12. But again, we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know who Devin Dampier is throwing the ball to, and there are the guys that are sifting through the roster that are excited for the guy who transferred from wherever state. We don't know what it looks like, dudes, and you will not until they take the field against who do they play in the first week? Is it UCLA on the road?
UCLA, and then they have one of those FBF, FCS, here's some money for kicking your head in game. I just thought it interesting that Kyle kept referencing more positive energy than in the past. And yes, you're right. I mean, that is something that has to trickle from the top down. And by the way, have we heard anything, Porter? Have we heard anything on Cam Rising? Do we know what he's doing next year?
No.
Yeah, it's been silent.
Yeah,
silent.
Silent.
I do think, and I want to be very clear, and I've maintained this, Cameron Rising should never pay for a beer in Salt Lake ever again. He should always be remembered as the legend that brought Utah to Rose Bowls.
By beer, you mean Cafe Rio.
Whatever it is. With what's the sauce that you put on the salad? It's quite good.
Cilantro lime.
Cafe Rio had a moment.
It did, and it's gone downhill at such a precipitous level that it is mind-boggling.
There were
sorry to provide that tangent.
No, you're good. There were times where you have to wait in line for an hour to get Cafe Rio back in the day. Anyway, non sequitur, a Cafe Rio, a beer, whatever it is. But I think the ambiguity around him in the final couple of years in that locker room, I think it grated on everybody. I don't think it was just fans. I don't think it was media. I think that was hard for everybody to deal with. And I think that's actually a distraction being removed that might free up some of this positive energy that Kyle's talking about.
Right. But to be fair, it's a distraction that was largely caused by the program the year before.
Not largely, entirely.
Entirely.
Yeah.
Because they refused to just divulge happened with Cam, and we found out, later on that his knee was basically shred to pieces. Last year is a little more like you can't be mad. Like the Cam should have thrown the ball away against Baylor. He gets pushed into the Gatorade cart. Listen, that happens. Then the first game he came back when he probably wasn't even ready to come back, he like breaks his ankle or whatever. So it's like, come on, dudes. Sometimes, again, I'm going to say this ad nauseum, you can't be mad at a football player for getting hurt.
No, any venom or vitriol towards Cam was entirely misguided. And I don't live online, so I don't know what those idiots were tweeting at him, but you would see things here or there. But those are people you should ignore anyway. But a 5-7 season, and Coach Witt comes back, I do think there's this, and I was looking at just one of these arbitrary preseason Big 12 lists or whatever, and I think it was 247. I'll have to look. Utah was picked 7th in the Big 12 in the list that I saw. And I do have to wonder, and this is kind of a thing we do here, whether it's Utah or BYU, we want to shock the world. We want the chip on the shoulder. We want nobody believes in us. We want nobody's talking about us.
It's the only time they have good seasons is when nobody's relying on them.
So to remove the pressure that you referenced earlier, first year in the Big 12, you're going to win the thing. You're going to go to the CFP now that it's expanded. If the list that I saw is accurate of what most prognosticators will publish when we get a little closer to the season, and Utah is thought to be middle of the pack Big 12 instead of the Vegas favorite to win the thing, maybe that plays into Kyle's hand.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, like, we can go back as recently as 2021, 2022, the Cam, Charlie Brewer start. Like, Charlie Brewer got the nod, and then Cam comes into San Diego State, and things change. Like, nobody was counting on them to do it in 2021. Then in 2022, like they needed a boatload of things to go their way the last week, and it did, and they won another Pac-12 title. 2008, man, like I was there. I was a student. I was the beat writer on the team. Like nobody thought that they were going to go undefeated. They barely beat a bunch of bad teams, but like it is interesting how any time that they're counted on to do something big, they don't necessarily live up to expectation. So, I mean, but that's just the way it goes, man. They're still a program that is, behind the Blue Bloods in terms of talent and being able to retain talent, and that is the reality that they will live in for a long time because there are always going to be the haves and the have-nots. And Utah's, bust through that glass ceiling a couple times, but they're still in a lot of people's mind. They're outsiders.
And the list I saw, I think, had BYU 6. It's not like people think BYU is going to win the conference. Yeah,
I thought they would be 1.
K-State. Arizona State,
I guess, yeah. ASU.
And I'd have to pull up the list, but it was the list I saw was BYU 6, Utah 7.
That is fascinating to me because I can't think off the top of my head how many guys BYU lost to either the portal or the draft.
Your boy Tyler Batty.
I mean, yeah, sorry, yeah. Batty was a big loss. I think they lost another dude on the defensive line, but they got Keanu Tanavasa and they keep Jake Retzloff. I think the receiver kid's coming back too, right? Chase Roberts.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
the receiver room down there is stacked. Yeah, it has been for a while.
Yeah, it's insane. I just think once again it's going to be an all up for grabs type deal in the Big 12. I guess I would say I would caution people to say like don't pay too much attention to what the preseason polls are going to be from the coaches and the media because those things rarely ever pan out.
At UCLA, home against Cal Poly. And then it's the
Wyoming trip.
It's the Porter Larson Bowl.
Let's go. You got to go do remote.
I'm not doing a remote in Laramie, but Porter has volunteered to cover the game and then stay there for 3 weeks. I believe. Do I have that right?
3 weeks?
Porter is pumped.
Porter's going to do man on the street.
If you leave me in Laramie for 3 weeks, you might have to come get me.
All right, happy to do that. But yeah, then it's the Porter Larson Bowl. Will you commit to going to cover the game in Laramie?
I mean, if we get multiple friends to go, yeah.
Who are we going to get to go to Laramie?
JP.
JP won't go to Laramie. JP will say that's not a real place, and he'll refuse to go.
Yeah.
So there you go. Did you fill out a bracket?
I did.
What? That's an upset.
So my buddies and I, who I grew up with, one random friend who knows nothing about basketball.
Are these your BYU bros?
Some of them.
Okay.
Some Utah bros. It's an amalgamation.
Okay, like it.
they'll send the invite, the ESPN invite.
Mm.
Do you want me to tell you where I am right now?
Sure. I honestly thought there was no way you even did that because my guess is you don't watch. You're not grinding on college basketball.
No, it's just fun.
And you grind on tape, just not college hoops.
Correct. Let's see. You need to fill some time while I find this.
Well, you should be in a decent place because it's basically been chalk. Like an idiot, I picked upsets because I've watched the tournament my whole life, and usually there are upsets. But there have not been upsets. There are 0 Cinderellas left in the Sweet 16. Do not sell me on Arkansas. It was a 10 seed. Calipari has like 4 pros. So you can't be like anybody who filled out a bracket should still be somewhat alive because most of the highest seeds are still remaining.
So out of 8 guys, where do you think I sit right now?
I'm going to say 4th. Second.
My percentage is 70.3.
Do you have your Final Four up?
I picked St. John's.
I picked St. John's as well.
I'll tell you who my Final Four was. St. John's, Houston.
You picked Duke.
And
then you probably picked Auburn.
I think I picked Florida.
Florida was in the St. John's region. So Florida will go because St. John's will not. The other region, Auburn's the 1 seed. I think Michigan State's the 2 seed.
I can't for some reason.
I have Michigan State because I think Auburn's going to lose to Michigan coming up.
I picked Houston to win it.
That's not a bad pick. What do you have?
Oh, sorry. I picked Auburn. Yeah, I picked Auburn to beat St. John's, and then Houston to beat Duke, and then Houston to win it.
What'd you have BYU doing?
I had them going to the Sweet 16.
So
losing to Alabama.
You have them losing to Alabama. Yeah. So you think that's what's going to happen? I mean, BYU has been tremendously impressive, and Alabama and BYU play a very similar style. Like Alabama is not Houston-level physical or big or strong. What they are is offensively elite and fast.
Pace and space.
Grinding on tape, knower of ball. The line opened up BYU plus 5.5. It moved twice towards Brigham Young. It's a 4.5-point spread. Look, it's the tournament, so I'm not going to say there's no way BYU can beat Duke, because that's who they'd see if they can beat Alabama, but I wouldn't be stunned if they win tomorrow.
Oh, no. I mean, anybody can win this tournament right now. I don't think there is a world beater in this tournament right now, and I'm interested to see how BYU handles that Sears kid, because I've seen him go off on a few highlights, and I guess thinking of, like, guard play, BYU's seen Caleb Love, but Caleb Love's super streaky. Houston has some good guards, but like the Sears kid is like a ball in the hand, like I'm going to go try to score 25 a game. And I don't know, does BYU have a defensive-minded guard? Because your guy, Demeen, I don't know if he's the type of on-the-ball stopper that's going to be able to provide him fits.
Yeah, I bet they put the Mawit Mag kid on him and then Trey Stewart off the bench. I think those will be the 2 players that guard Sears. But Sears, and this is a lazy comp because they're both left-handed point guards, he plays a lot like Jalen Brunson. A lot like Jalen Brunson. And he's first-team All-American. Alabama is good. They were in the Final Four a year ago. They lost a really good game to UConn. And it's a tough ask. Oh, by the way, the line just moved. Alabama's now, again, a 5.5-point favorite. So as of this morning, it was down to 4.5. But you got to give Kevin Young a lot of credit, man. Like this program, and there's a chance, CK. I think Yegor's gone. I think he's played his way back into the top 10. I think he leaves. Yeah, I think he leaves. He's all of 6'9". He's a great passer. He's got a great handle. He's got a really good feel. The shot has been better in the tournament. I can see why pro scouts like him. A month and a half ago, I would have questioned it, but they might get everyone else back. Now, Richie's 23. So if you're Richie Saunders and you get NBA feedback, like if you leave now, you will be drafted. You probably have to go because you're 23 years old. But if he gets feedback like you're borderline, they get Richie back, they get Dallin back, they get everybody else back. Well, Trevin Nell's 2 years older than Luka Doncic, so he's leaving.
Your guy.
But everybody else, they could get back. And this Debanza kid, I don't know if you've seen him play. It's ridiculous how ready he is to be awesome right away. BYU might enter next year as a top 10 team.
So can I throw a curveball at you?
Do it. Change up, potentially.
Why aren't we giving Mark Pope enough credit for building the infrastructure of the team that Kevin Young has right now? Because I know Yegor was a big ad, but pretty much every other contributor right now was a Mark Pope recruit.
I think Mark gets a tremendous amount of credit.
Yeah.
And by the way, Kentucky's still playing.
Yeah.
Mark Pope's a good coach.
And Mark only took one guy with him from BYU.
He took Jackson Robinson, and then Colin Chandler, shout out Davis County, was a BYU commit.
Oh, did he commit to Kentucky?
But he never played at BYU. And he's playing for Mark as a freshman.
I did not know this.
He's got mission legs. Like, he's now starting to look okay.
Okay.
So he's getting minutes in the tournament, but he was buried at the end of the bench, and he's good. Colin's a really good player. So Mark did take Colin Chandler. He did take Jackson Robinson. Jackson's hurt right now. But Mark wanted Richie and Dallin, and they both said no and stayed in Provo.
Yeah.
Think about what that team would look like without those two. It's a much different year.
That's a good point. And, we talk a lot about the gravitas that Kevin Young carries, having been in the NBA for such a long time. I think beyond the landing a future lottery pick in Yegor Demon, I think him being able to retain the guys that might have wanted to leave is even more impressive because, as you said, like if Richie Saunders and Dallin Hall leave, whether it's to Kentucky or anywhere else, like there's no way BYU is where it is right now. Like not even no chance.
And what we have, CK, now is proof of concept, right? And so I know the online debate is, hey, Utah, you're copying us in Provo. All right, it doesn't matter. Like,
who's saying that?
Idiots online.
Dude,
like, and ultimately the deal is in sports on any level, when you see something that works, you say, how do I get some of that, right? Whatever it is. So Utah goes all in on Alex Jensen. We now have the contract details. It's a 6-year deal, so they're committed to Alex. Coach Chill, former high school teammate of Tony Jones. He's now the lead assistant. And then Wes Wilcox is brought in as the new general manager. The Wes Wilcox hire is really interesting because he is now officially the highest ranking sitting NBA front office member to take a college job. 39 years old, by all accounts, very smart, analytically driven. That became official today. So Utah leaning into this pro model that's worked so well at BYU.
And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Wes hire Alex to be the
Canton Charge?
Yeah, the
G League coach.
The great Canton Charge, who I think no longer exists or have a different name. But yeah, I mean, Utah's going for it, and they needed to, and it's a long time overdue, frankly. And I think the 6-year contract is, necessary. I haven't looked into. I know Josh and Jason at the Trib had details. I don't know what the buyout is for Alex. Should they have a rousing start and people, a bigger school comes calling, but 3.6 to start. It's an impressive number. I think that's the number they needed to pay Alex to leave the NBA. I know fans are excited about the prospect of adding, other former legacy members of the program to the coaching staff. But again, man, like these guys got hit on players in the portal because that roster is devoid of a lot of talent. And I don't know if Ezra Sarr is going to come back. I think pretty much he's the one guy that I would say like you kind of want to go hard at because he was very impressive this year. I know you're in on your guy from Timpview, the kid who transferred from BYU.
Jake Wallin.
Yeah. I know you're big on him, but Coach Chill, Wes, Alex, they have a lot of work to do.
I'm starting to feel that this is going to be a clean slate. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody's back.
And I don't think that'd be the worst thing in the world either.
No. And I kind of feel bad for Josh Eilert, who's going to join us on Friday, who's still coaching the team, preparing them to play in the College Basketball Crown, a tournament that you're very familiar with.
Oh, yeah. And who else is going to be there?
Butler.
Coastal Carolina.
Butler is the first-round opponent. I think Arizona State's there, too. It's interesting.
Like Butler? Wow.
Georgetown is there. There's actually some good college basketball brands.
And it's all in Vegas, right?
All in Vegas. It's a
good concept.
Well, and it's on national television.
Yeah,
and
it's a good concept.
If you win, you get $300K, and you can split it amongst your players. Like, it's not nothing. It's not awesome, but it's not nothing.
It's better than the CBI or the CIT or, no offense, but the NIT leaving the Garden, man.
Oh, come on. Brutal. One more thing here for you, CK, is the guy that in this market, maybe the only guy in this market that actually knows the tone and tenor of the Sanders family, Deion Sanders, all the work you did in Colorado. The Giants signed Porter's boy, Russell Wilson. So which means there's a shot that Cleveland takes Shedeur at 2. I don't know if they're going to. So apparently Tennessee is all in on Cam Ward. That's the buzz. The draft's about a month away. We have seen in the past John Elway, Eli Manning, others have an opportunity to basically forced their way out of where they were drafted to land at an organization that the reps surrounding the player believed was a better landing spot for them. If Cleveland goes Shedeur at 2, does Deion get involved?
Well, here's the problem. If Cleveland doesn't take him, then how far does he slide? Because here's
you think the Jets can say no? Is it 7? I think the Jets are at 7.
Jets are at 7. Here's the thing. Deion's smart enough he's already made some media rounds saying, like, due to his experience as both a player and, a former media member, that some teams allegedly will trash players publicly at the hope of them falling to them. Like they want to kind of
smoke screen,
little poison the well. Mm-hmm. But I'm just looking at it, man. Like
muddy the waters, if you will.
Hey, so Cleveland 2. He's not going to go to New England, Jacksonville. He's not going to go to the Vegas. I mean, the Jets would be it. Carolina. Like, do they give up on Bryce Young this early?
I don't think so.
I
think it's the Jets.
You think it's the Jets?
It's not Justin Fields. He sucks.
Cleveland or the Jets?
Yeah. Well, if you're Deion, at least you have New York with the Jets, but that's an organization, and I'm a fan, that I would not want my son to play for. Like, I understand. I don't think Zach Wilson was ever going to be awesome, but I think he would have had a much better chance to at least evolve if he landed somewhere else outside of the Jets. It's a cluster because the owner's a moron.
And if, for Shedeur's sake, if he slides, is it a bad thing if he goes to a team that maybe he sits?
No, I think that would be the best thing for him.
Yeah, and at that point, you're even looking at teams like, Indianapolis at 14. If he fell to 12, and the Cowboys took him, what would Porter do?
Shedeur backing up Dak for a couple of years?
I don't hate it if it's the 12. I mean, if he falls there, why not take a flyer on it? I'm also one who has been, well documented about my frustrations with the averageness of Dak for 10 years.
Yep. Rather have an average team than a bad team, like the Jets. You're a Niners guy, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, that's our time. Little Sam Rockwell, little Ben Stiller. Sam Rockwell transition into Kyle Korver content. Come on, man.
We did it.
It's a good Wednesday hit.
We do a great job.
Good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right, we'll catch a break. 5 o'clock hour of the program comes your way. Coming up on the other side, right here on ESPN 700. plays Zach. All right, let's get a Drive at 5 time, Wednesday afternoon style, 7 minutes past the hour of, not 2 o'clock. We'd have a lot of radio to do if it was 2 o'clock. Sometimes you go into autopilot, man. Do 4 hours every day of this. You're going to break in autopilot. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. How do you like 74 degrees and sunny and clear in Salt Lake City? Not bad, huh? Spring has sprung. You are halfway through that work week, and as it is every day, it's going to have you along for the ride. The 5 o'clock hour of the program today is brought to you by our good friends at Burt Brothers with over 30 years of experience in nearly 30 locations. Burt Brothers ASE certified technicians bring expertise and professionalism to every interaction. We're talking industry-leading warranties and low-price tire guarantees. It's a one-stop shop for reliable repairs and maintenance, from tires and alignments to fluids and brakes, offering a full range of automotive services tailored to meet your needs. Now offering value tire options such as Americus and Summit tires, starting at just $69 with warranties that go up to 70,000 miles. As one of the few AAA certified shops in Utah, Burt Brothers upholds the highest standards in automotive service. You can stop by Burt Brothers or Tire Busters locations or schedule an appointment today to experience the trusted service that has made them a Utah favorite for over 3 decades now. Burt Brothers doing it better since day one. More information can be found online at burtbrothers.com. Got a little NBA basketball for you guys tonight after we say goodnight. The Pacers and the Lakers will take place on ESPN Radio. 2 teams that may even be trying to win. I know. It's crazy to think about that dynamic in pro basketball. Trying to play basketball the right way, trying to actually show up and play hard and trying to, win games. We'll see who's playing for the Lakers. We'll see who's playing for the Pacers. But the Pacers are the 4 seed in the East. 2 games ahead of Milwaukee. Speaking of Milwaukee, shout out to Dame Lillard. Our guy has a blood clot, poor guy. He's going to be out for a while, so hopefully Dame can get well soon. The Lakers have been struggling as of late. They've had some injuries, including LeBron. They're 3-7 in their last 10. But we've got a little Lakers-Pacers coming your way on the radio station tonight, right after we say goodnight at about 6 o'clock this evening. Started things off today with Pablo Mastroeni, RSL. Back in action this weekend. They're on the road at the Allianz Field in Minnesota to take on Minnesota. Not to be redundant, RSL in need of a win. Hopefully reinforcements on the way. Neil Smith rolled by for a little hockey today, the Utah Hockey Club. They're off tonight. They're going to take on Tampa Bay tomorrow. And not going to happen this year. The wild card berth is probably not realistic, but a fun year of hockey here in our market, to say the least. And then an hour-long conversation with Chris Camerani that included Sam Rockwell conversation, White Lotus. Let's see, what else did we do? Oh, Ben Stiller's best movie. We transitioned from Sam Rockwell to Kyle Korver conversation, did some spring football, and, of course, college basketball as well. As it is the madness of March, we are still in the month of March. I believe it's John Stockton's birthday today. Porter, do your own research and figure out if it's John Stockton's birthday today. Deal?
I'm on it.
If for some reason I remember March 26th is John's birthday. So shout out John Stockton. Happy birthday. BYU back in action tomorrow.
Yep.
Shout out John Stockton. Porter, good job doing your own research and finding out it was John Stockton's birthday.
63.
Shout out John Stockton. 63 years old today. Good stuff. The madness of March continues. Sweet 16 gets rolling tomorrow. BYU and Alabama are the first game. It's going to be at 5:09 Mountain Time on CBS at the Prudential Center, Newark, New Jersey. Alabama is a 5.5-point favorite. That line at one point moved down towards BYU. It was -4.5. In the direction of Alabama, Alabama moves back up now to a 5.5-point favorite. After that, it's going to be the Maryland Terrapins taking on the Florida Gators, Arizona and Duke, then Arkansas, Texas Tech. So a bevy of really good college basketball games tomorrow. Your Friday tilt will be Ole Miss and Michigan State, Kentucky, Tennessee, Michigan, Auburn, and Purdue, Houston. No Cinderellas left in the big dance. Do not sell me on Arkansas. John Calipari has a grip of pro players. They just had health issues early on in the season, didn't start out well. So hopefully your brackets are still intact with all the high seeds basically still playing. You should be in a decent space. Found out today a couple of things in the direction of the Utah men's basketball program. Alex Jensen, of course, introduced as the head coach of the Utes. last Monday, so that's old news. What's new now is the details of Alex's contract. Talked about this earlier. It's weird that we do this. I'm not exactly sure why we do it. Like when your buddy gets a job in insurance sales, you're not like, hey, did you hear about Pete? $70,000 base salary with a 7% commission structure. He can make $94,000 this year. But we do it with coaches, which is weird. Alex Jensen, 6-year contract with Utah that starts at $3.6 million per year. The salary includes base, appearance fees, incentives, totaling $21.6 million. Alex is the 8th highest paid coach in the Big 12. And, of course, finishing off the season with the Dallas Mavericks. So a couple things here. So 6-year contract, which, of course, is a big-time indicator that Utah is committed to Alex, not just now, but they're going to give him a lot of time to get this thing right. If we're very honest, this is not going to be a quick fix. And I don't have any inside information here, but my feel is this is going to be a clean slate. I don't know how many of the players that are available to come back will be back. I'm not sure if any of the coaches are going to be brought back as well. That could change. That's not off any inside information. That is just my best guess. But Alex's contract looks like this. His base salary is $300,000. And what's interesting is $2.5 million in appearance fees, public speaking engagements, and fundraising, which, of course, is going to be a big part of this new job in the new ecosystem of college basketball. He gets $400,000 in an outfitter agreement, $400,000 in a multimedia rights agreement. Then he's going to have the opportunity to make an additional $750,000 in incentive-based compensation, which includes opportunities like a top 4 finish in the Big 12, winning the Big 12, making the NCAA tournament, and several others. So Alex, of course, continues to finish off the season with the Dallas Mavericks as one of their assistant coaches. So he gets a car, a smartphone. Is it an iPhone 16? Do we know? Is it like or is this an Android?
Good question.
Can you please effort some information on exactly what smartphone Alex gets?
I can ask.
What kind of car are we looking at? Is it like a Kia, one of the trucks?
I think Larry was rolling around in a Benz.
Did he use his buyout money to buy that, or did he have that when he was the coach of the Utes?
He had it before the buyout money.
Okay. Alex also gets moving expenses for he and his lovely wife, Natalie, and their beautiful children, 12 season tickets to men's basketball. What are you laughing at?
You.
What? No. Explain yourself. You can't just cackle into an open mic without an explanation.
No, you're just a funny host.
Well, I'm just wondering exactly what type of car it is and what type of smartphone it is.
I think that we can safely assume it's an iPhone.
What if it's an Android? What if it's like a 2012 flip phone Android?
Well, then we got to talk to the boosters.
And is that really a smartphone? Let's go out on a limb and say
BlackBerry.
It's an old school BlackBerry. What about, do you remember the Pilot? Are you old enough to remember the old Pilot?
Yeah, it had like a stylus.
Yeah, little stylus, which was fun. Anyway, we're guessing Alex gets a new iPhone, and we're guessing he gets a nice car. That's our guess, right?
Just a guess.
But we don't have any inside info. But he does get 12 season tickets to the men's basketball games, which he is coaching, and 6 season tickets to football. So the details of Alex Jensen's contract are now public knowledge. A couple of hires have become official. We've discussed the dynamic of Rafael Chilius rolling in from the Memphis Grizzlies as his first assistant coach. And then as first reported by Pete Thamel from ESPN, Wes Wilcox is now officially the general manager of the Utah men's basketball program. Wes instantly becomes the highest-ranking NBA official to take a college job, which is really interesting and indicates certainly intent and commitment from the boosters, from the donors, and from the athletic department to this new project to try to rebuild Utah basketball back to its glory of the past. Wes has been a general manager in the NBA, so he's run a team. He ran the Atlanta Hawks. Alex and Wes know each other from their time in Cleveland. Wes was the director of player personnel and also ran their G League team and hired Alex to coach the Canton Charge, where Alex won the G League Coach of the Year. Back then it was the D League, and he also won a D League championship. So that's kind of the news of the day today as it pertains to the local happenings around the Utah basketball program. But, yeah, a little pro basketball tonight. The Madness of March rolls on tomorrow. The Jazz are idle tonight after getting their doors blown off by the Grizzlies. They're going to welcome in the Houston Rockets tomorrow here in Salt Lake. All right, we'll catch a break. We'll do a little more basketball, college and pro, and whatever else comes our way. Zach Harper joins us coming up on the other side. Then it's time for Pacers-Lakers. A little NBA basketball on a Wednesday. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. You have seen the show.
Only once, which if you know, you'll probably miss some stuff. It deserves a rewatch. I'll say The Sopranos does. I haven't done that yet.
It is worth. I've done the start to finish Sopranos twice, but it's one of those shows. If you have watched it in its entirety, you can just dial up, one of your favorite episodes, and it hits still. It's an excellent program.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Like I said, I haven't seen any of the episodes more than one time or a few. So yeah, I can definitely still fire one up and go. But the problem is, if I do, I'll then watch the next one and the next one and the next one, because there's always things I missed during the storyline that you catch the second time around.
See, I have the same issue. Like, I like a good binge, and so if I end up getting behind on a TV show, I usually just tap out and then, I don't know, find a day to watch like 7 in a row. It's probably not the healthiest way to consume television, but I end up doing that more often than not.
Yeah, I'm a binger as well. Like you said, not the healthiest thing, but I also sometimes will go a month without Frosted Flakes, and then I'll down a whole box in one evening. So,
ooh, Frosted Flakes are so good. Have you ever had Frosted Tips?
Frosted Tips on my hair?
Your hair, yes.
No, I don't need the Frosted Tips. I'm a towhead.
Wait. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm technically blonde like you are. I'm old, and so now there's very few blonde, very little blonde left. Maybe you're just too young, but there was a phase where Frosted Tips were the thing, man. It was very, very in.
Yeah, that was like what, turn of the century? I was pretty young, and my hair now is like sandy blonde. When I was a kid, it was like your dog. It was like bleach blonde when I was younger. So
I was a towhead when I was a kid too. It's wild to look at pictures, but there are photos that exist of your boy, 18, 19 years old, Frosted Tips, puka shell necklace, popped collar.
As long as the collar's popped,
Well, I hate to admit this. Sometimes it wasn't only one collar.
There we go.
There was a phase where a couple collars were popped, man. I'm not going to lie.
You were bringing the Northeast to Salt Lake City.
How many of your Elite Eight teams are left in your bracket? I'm looking here, leaderboard.
All but Iowa State for me, I think.
You're third with 49. It's still wild that Scott Mitchell is leading right now. I had a strong start, but I'm down tied for fifth with Alonzo. Jeff Schwartz is in last. He should be. Gordy Chiesa, what's happening to our guy? If there's not a better example of how dumb this exercise is than the smartest basketball dude maybe in the state, Gordy Chiesa, second to last in our bracket challenge.
Yeah, Scott being first and Gordy being at the bottom should kind of tell you, and hey, no discredit to Scott and no shade to Gordy, but it should just kind of tell you how unpredictable this tournament specifically is. Scott Mitchell has spent his entire life in football. Gordy Chiesa has spent literally longer than Scott Mitchell has been alive in professional basketball. So
that's true.
That's just a little insight into how impossible this thing is.
It is, but the badness, continues tomorrow. Cannot wait for it. I think we have 4 awesome games. We'll break down BYU Bama on the show tomorrow. Get you ready for that game between two high-powered offenses. First to 90 might win, but coming up on the other side, some NBA basketball. We've got the Pacers and the Lakers. And guys, breaking news. These are two teams that might actually try to win the game tonight. That's wild. It's wild in the ecosystem of the NBA that on March 26th, the birthday of one John Stockton, that we have a game on our station with 2 NBA teams that are going to try hard to win the game.
Yeah, if that's something you enjoy, this station might have a few of those in the market this year.
Yeah, well, we're the only one, I'll tell you that much. All right, Porter, let's get out of here. What comes our way on a Thursday edition of the program?
On a Thursday edition of The Drive, we will cover all our bases, talking Utes, talking Cougs, talking NFL, talking NBA, whatever may come about with our friend Mark Harlan. We're going to talk some Utes with the athletic director, get an update on maybe some coaching staff stuff. I don't know.
Live in studio?
No, not tomorrow.
Coward.
Mark's going to join us over the phone. Bill Riley will stop by the show on a Thursday, and then we're going to catch up with our guy, Richard Smitty Smith. He will be in studio Mark will be over the phone, but we do get Smitty here on site.
There we go. That will be a very, very fun Thursday show. It's been a while since we've been able to catch up with Mark. I'll look forward to that conversation. We'll say goodnight. Special thank you to Pablo Mastroeni, Zach Harper, Neil Smith, and Chris Comrani for any of the sound you may have missed from the show today. Go to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app and take us on the go. It's how I listen to our station. The app is the ESPN 700 app, and it's in the Google Play Store, the App Store.
Most people have no clue that in 2024, the best way to make money with Amazon is not.
Look on our podcast page and listen to whatever you want to listen to in your time.
It was a
Spence Checketts. Have a great Wednesday evening. Enjoy Pacers Lakers. We'll talk to you on a Thursday drive right here tomorrow on ESPN.